Stephen Miller is a clown. I've never seen that guy in real life, but he looks like he's like 4'10". He looks like he is angry about the fact that he's 4'10".
How dare you!
I want to express my love for the short king community. I don't believe in body shaming. I am talking about how big or small someone is on the inside.
Shut up, bitch! Oh my God!
Look at that big ass. Look at that big juicy booty.
In this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. Broadcasting from a Montana wilderness fortress at the headwaters of the Missouri, this is Matt Christiansen Live.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Matt Christiansen Live, a proud duct tape production for Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. Thank you for tuning in. Sitting shotgun tonight is our friend Joshy Boy. Welcome back.
Saddle up, partner.
I promise I'm not going to subject you and everybody listening to all that much government shutdown talk tonight. I'd planned on none, actually. But there is one point I wanted to visit, demonstrating scientifically that nobody cares about it. Or not only do they not care about it, they're not even aware of it, which I find to be interesting.
Yeah.
But other topics in the news tonight. Former special counsel Jack Smith, of course, prosecuting Trump formerly for the January 6th case and the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. Now accused of, well, not really accused of, there's documentation to demonstrate. He was monitoring, spying, if you want to use a little bit more critical word. He was collecting the phone records of 10 sitting U.S. senators as part of his investigation. So, additional weaponization of the legal system potentially, or just snooping around where it doesn't really make sense that he was snooping around.
Yeah.
California Congresswoman, formerly at least, she's out of Congress now. Katie Porter, now running for governor. She ran unsuccessfully for California, for Senate from California against Adam Schiff. Gets enraged at a Sacramento reporter for asking very basic questions. This is the clip of the week, going crazy on X. And she is your current frontrunner to be the governor of the biggest state in the union, this crazy lady. So we'll take a look at that. And you heard it in the intro there, Joshy.
Yeah.
AOC short shames Stephen Miller. And Stephen Miller's not even short. I don't know. He claims to be 5'10", and I believe him. I don't know why he would lie about that.
Yeah, he would be slightly taller than me, I think.
Well, what's the cutoff for short king?
Short king? How tall was Bonaparte?
Oh, wasn't he like 5'3", 4, 5, something like that? You look it up. You tell me. But short kings everywhere are outraged. And I have to confess, short king is one of those terms for the kids these days that I didn't even know what it was up until maybe like 2 months ago. And I heard my wife say it. What the hell's a short king? Didn't know. But short kings everywhere. Mad at AOC explaining herself to make good with them. Plus, we'll take your calls tonight, as usual. Do you have confirmation on the Napoleon height?
I am still... I don't know why Google is making this very difficult.
Oh, use the AI assistant. It'll tell you.
It was 5'2", apparently.
5'2". So yeah. I overestimated.
Yeah,
if you'd like to...
Short.
he definitely... I think whatever the line is for short king, 5'2" for a man has to qualify. No insult to the short kings out there who are 5'2", all right? I'm not... AOC is the one who's going to dunk on you momentarily. If you'd like to call the show, you can do that through the Discord server. It's linked in the description. There are instructions and help available for you on the server. We'll take voicemails and email questions to close as well. And I can't remember when we last talked about it, presumably the last time you were on September 7th, Joshy, but you have had a take on natural God-given rights and their existence, I suppose. But you want to clarify your stance on natural rights later in the show. We'll do that after the emails before we get to Superchats. Speaking of course, we'll take your Superchats as well. Is this going to be a real clarification or like an AOC clarification?
Well, I'm not retarded, so I will try to be as clear as possible. The only issue that I have is that since I'm a writer, I write my thoughts out better than I actually speak it. So if I struggle, just bear with me.
Hey, I'm the same way. I like to organize my thoughts before speaking. So now the pressure's on, though. Now that you have written them out ahead of time, they better be good or everyone's going to rip you. Just
well,
wait.
I only have 10 minutes, and this will take 3 hours. So.
That's true. I did say 10 minutes or shut the hell up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You can ask Batman and even Ninja Kitty.
Wait. Say it again. You can what?
No, Ninja Kitty. You can ask them, right?
Okay. I was going to say, I've never actually heard a
Kaniga
pronounce the word correctly.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, I lost that card a long time ago. But
I didn't know it was possible. I thought it was physiologically impossible. That they're just swinging axes everywhere. Lumberjacks chopping down trees.
Let me ask you a question.
Holy shit. We've made history. Did you hear that, everyone? Did you hear that? Say it again.
Ask.
Here's proof, man. All right.
It can be done. You can thank my father for that.
A good man. Sounds like a good man. All right. We got to say hello to our friendly listener-owned business for the evening, and that's our friends at Hero Soap Company. Actually, I misspoke. We will get to Hero Soap Company because they have an exciting new scent. I got ahead of myself. Okay. But our featured business tonight is Hope Innovations. Have you ever wanted to grow your own garden, but you didn't feel like you had the space? With food prices rising and chemicals being added to our food every day, you might consider adding a hydroponic garden system to your home. Grow clean and fresh produce all year round with the Eden Tower from Hope Innovations. When it comes to growing your own food, invest in the best system and discover the joy of regularly having freshly harvested salads, homegrown herbs, tomatoes, peppers, and more with your very own hydroponic system. Engineered to be elegant and practical, the Eden Tower stands above the competition with its patented cup system that allows you to drop a seed and go. You do not need a green thumb to easily grow delicious and nutritious food. And we're heading into fall and winter. You don't have to stop gardening just because the seasons are changing. You can still grow your own food all year round. Get $200 off an Eden Tower Hydroponics Kit from Hope Innovations using a listener-exclusive link available only through my website. Head on over to mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals. Find the Hope Innovations section. Click the link, $200 off an Eden Tower Hydroponics Kit. Get started growing your own food easily and simply today. mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals. $200 off an Eden Tower Hydroponics Kit. And I mentioned we got to say hello to Hero Soap as well. Don't forget our friends at Hero Soap Company. Their many fine offerings, including bar soap, liquid soap, shampoo, conditioner, and more. My signature scents, Timberline and Old West. Great smelling, all natural products. Portion of the sales benefit military and first responder charities as well. And what I was trying to get to eventually was I just received word today there's a new scent for Halloween, Joshy. Dracula scent. Now, what the hell does Dracula smell like? I figured, I don't know, a bunch of people's blood or something.
No, well, he's technically a corpse, so it might stink.
Is he? Okay. And he doesn't like garlic, right? So it's not a garlic soap. Okay.
No, that would surely kill him.
My friends at Hero Soap Company tell me it is a rich sandal scent. Sandalwood with subtle musk and amber undertones. An earthy warmth that lingers after the shower. Confident, calm, and undeniably magnetic. So, try Dracula scent. Get 10% off all of these fine offerings. HeroSoapCompany.com, promo code MCListener. Promo code MCListener, 10% off everything at Hero Soap Company. Find all the information on all my deals at mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals. Deals by listeners for listeners. I want to remind everyone that we also are accepting voicemails for this show now. If you'd like to participate by voice, but you can't do it live or you don't want to use Discord, just call the number linked in the description, or it's right there on the contact page of my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/contact. You can just click to call. Or if you need to dial it, it's 406-312-5731. You can leave a voicemail. We'll respond to it on air. And I only have one voicemail tonight. So if you're listening live and you want to participate in the show, but you don't want to hang out in the Discord server, leave us a voicemail. We'll respond to it later on. And lastly, one quick announcement. Since I've come back from break over the summer, some have noticed and wondered, where is your friend Frank from Quite Frankly? Didn't he used to make an appearance every first Wednesday of the month. He did, and he will. Frank has been he's been actually away from the show since July. We haven't done a segment for that long. We have intended to have him back the last couple weeks, but Frank has had some conflicts. So Frank will be on next week, October 15th, live at 9 Eastern. In the meantime, head on over to quitefrankly.tv for all things Quite Frankly, and tell him that Matt sent you. All right.
Speaking of missing people, have you... Well, actually, I'm going to just text you that.
Oh, is someone missing?
I was going to ask about Knuckle.
I actually have not heard anything recently. I think the last time I heard from him was around the 4th of July. Okay. And I can say that he was doing comparatively well. Now, it's private communication, so I don't want to say more than is warranted. I just wanted
to know if he was alive.
But yeah, I have spoken to him about July 4th, and of course I'm letting him recover. I don't want to prod, but he knows that if he would like to come back and discuss what happened, it's a difficult episode for him. So I'm not trying to push him or rush him, but he's welcome to come back and talk about what happened whenever he feels like the time is right. So open invitation, and that's where that stands. All right. For 2 shows in a row, I've opened talking about what is now a week of
government shutdown.
And I like to dramatize it because Democrats like to dramatize it. 50,000 people are going to die imminently, Joshy. That's what Bernie Sanders says about the need to expand healthcare subsidies or maintain the expansion from the Biden era. But the actual truth, of course, is that nobody cares.
Who cares?
So tonight, I'm not going to pretend to care any further. Today, I saw some polling that demonstrates the lack of care that I thought was pretty interesting. As I mentioned at the top of the show, according to News Nation, a new poll reveals only 6% of voters say they have been greatly impacted by the government shutdown. But this is the interesting part to me. Nearly a third say they weren't even aware of a government shutdown. I'm a little bit skeptical of the reporting because it's nothing wrong with the national desk. It's just they're not citing or linking the poll in this reporting. And I Googled around today trying to find it, and I couldn't. It's just described in generic terms, but it's certainly possible. And it's a third of voters, Joshy. That's not just adults. That's not like randos that you find on the street. These are people actively participating in politics to some degree. Maybe they only vote in presidential elections every 4 years, but still they're paying attention more than just like any guy that you hypothetically pick. And they're not even aware that it's happening. So what does that say about the supposed necessity of our federal government?
Well, it doesn't affect my life personally. I still get my mail.
It's,
yeah.
And that's the thing they do kind of okay, but not really. You'd still much prefer to use FedEx and UPS if you can.
Yeah, but a buddy of mine was talking about from earlier at work. He was like, well, Josh, there's a lot of people who won't get their money. He says, I mean, I don't expect to get fired from my job anytime soon, but in the case that it does happen, I do need a backup plan. I mean, that's their fault that they're not prepared.
Yeah, I've ripped enough on federal workers lately, so I'll take your point and move along. But yeah, I agree. Like, I'm sorry, dude, if you can't, if you're a federal worker with a lot of union protection and generally above average pay, which a lot of them are, I know not all of them, but a lot of them, and you can't plan for a week or two of a rainy day, I'm sorry. Welcome to the real world where the rest of us live.
Yeah, but I'm sympathetic, but not that sympathetic.
All right. Recall former special counsel Jack Smith, the Merrick Garland, Joe Biden appointed lawyer who was prosecuting the January 6th and classified documents cases against Trump. And then those got tied up in various appeals, and then Trump won the election, and then Jack Smith just resigned.
He died.
He might have. Haven't heard anything from him in a while. According to Kash Patel at the FBI and Chuck Grassley in the Senate has been involved in releasing these documents too. While Jack Smith was special counsel, so again, 2022 to January of this year, he was tracking the private communications of 10 Republican senators. This supposedly related to Jack Smith's January 6th investigation of what Trump did to provoke the violence. Jack Smith and his team subpoenaed phone providers for the lawmakers' records in 2023. Now, these records enabled Jack Smith and his FBI friends, or his DOJ friends, to see the numbers that the senators had called, the locations of the calls, or at least, the locations from which the calls originated, or the locations where the calls were received. As far as I'm aware, it doesn't necessarily show, or he didn't have access to the content of the conversation, but you still know who's talking to who. And a source within the FBI says the interest in the records was likely related to the Senate vote to certify the 2020 election. So why did Jack Smith do this? Well, if that theory is true, it's something about how Trump's words maybe influenced these senators to vote this way or that way, or not vote that way, or whatever. But you'd want to know who was talking to who on their personal phones.
Could have been talking to their grandma or something like that.
Well, Jack Smith knows. He knows more than Santa Claus at this point. He knows when you've been good or he knows when you've been naughty or nice.
Imagine calling your wife on that phone, on that kind of phone, and y'all just being absolutely nasty to each other because that's your thing, and he's just listening to it. Jack
Smith. I'm not going to speculate about what Jack Smith may have done in such a scenario. Now, previously, how did this happen? With previous spying on the Trump administration, we know there was FISA court abuse, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act courts, and this is when members of the intel community would just find some ridiculous foreign connection to the person they were targeting, and then they would go to a FISA court to get a rubber stamp warrant to spy on their target. That's not what this was. This was actually, these records were obtained through a grand jury. So the process is Jack Smith goes to a grand jury. The grand jury issues the subpoena for these records. That is all legal, but we don't necessarily know what the aim was here because grand jury proceedings are secret. So we don't know why these senators were selected. We don't know exactly what Jack Smith was trying to do. Some of this, or at least that Jack Smith may have been collecting these records, was already known because Jack Smith had fought some legal fights over what the limits of the Constitution's speech or debate clause are. That protects congressional speech from certain liabilities. And he had tried to challenge what elements of members of Congress, what their speech received legal protection.
Gotcha.
Anyway, of course, the personal phone records of these senators go well beyond what they say on the floor or in their official capacity as members of Congress. In summary, this doesn't look like there's much of a case that Jack Smith acted illegally necessarily, but it's yet another development in the weaponization of the legal system that we're supposed to believe, of course, Joshy, has only been used against Jim Comey. He's the only guy ever to be victimized by corrupt force of law.
I wonder how that's going.
I have an update for you. Thank you for the wonderful transition. Jim Comey, as you assuredly are aware, Joshy, charged with lying to Congress and obstructing a congressional proceeding. And we went over that Sunday before last. Well, he pleaded not guilty to those charges in court in Alexandria, Virginia today. The trial is now set to start January 5th. Now, he's been released. It's not like he's sitting in jail before the trial or something.
It's not like the rest of us who will be sitting in a jail cell.
It's not like he did some reckless parading on January 6th or something like that. Comey has been released, no conditions. Comey's lawyers are planning 2 batches of motions to dismiss the case. So when I discussed this with Mark a few weeks ago, that was the angle that Comey's lawyers are planning: vindictive prosecution, malicious prosecution, targeting for political reasons, selective prosecution. And frankly, Trump, with his public statements, has given a lot of ammunition to Comey's team on that front.
Yeah.
So they're going to go to court and say, look, here's Trump saying publicly, go get Jim Comey. He sucks. I hate him. Go get him.
Some of his problems will be handled if Trump just be quiet for a little bit.
It's a good rule when it comes to court proceedings, but telling Trump to be quiet is just asking him not to be Trump. So
that's very true.
So they're going to challenge on those grounds. Comey's team is also prepared to issue some motions to try to seek dismissal on some other grounds. Another angle is they're disputing the appointment of the prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan. So remember, Trump fired the federal prosecutor who was in that district in Virginia for hesitating to prosecute Comey and other people, installs Lindsay Halligan, a former lawyer of his who actually has no prosecutorial experience. Now she's the prosecutor. I don't know what their legal dispute for why she's not legally valid, what that point is, but they're going to try to challenge her holding the office.
Yeah.
Comey is going to make some points of dispute about the grand jury process. Again, I'm not sure what the specifics are, but they're going to say that the grand jury that brought these charges was somehow procedurally invalid. So for all of these reasons and the things that we discussed a week and a half ago, I'm going to be very surprised if Comey's case even makes it to trial, but as we've watched for years now, with the way that these people have wielded the force of law in the court proceedings, the process is the punishment. So Jim Comey is already receiving the punishment.
I don't know if the process is going to be that punishing towards him like it would anybody else, though.
Doesn't sound that bad. It sounds like really just a mild inconvenience.
I mean, maybe he can use his book sale of money to pay all that.
Yeah, he's going to, I guess it'll take a chunk out of that, but we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. And again, it's the kind of thing too, where it's like of all the things Jim Comey has done, maybe lying about authorizing the feeding of information on the Hillary investigation is the worst. Like that's the worst criminal thing you could. Okay. All right. That's what we're going with. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, you may know former Congresswoman Katie Porter. Do you recognize that face on the right, Joshy?
This is actually the first time I've heard of Katie Porter.
All right. Well, good for you. You've lived a good life.
So far.
She's a Democrat from Southern California, Orange County. Now, the reason I knew who she was previously is not just because she's a member of Congress, because she was fairly anonymous during her time in Congress. It's because she helped AOC hide on January 6th. This pair was huddled together in Katie Porter's office, barricaded safely from all the danger outside. That was Katie Porter. Saved AOC's life. Remember, AOC said she feared she was going to die on January 6th. Yeah. And Katie Porter saved her. Well, Katie Porter left Congress in January. She ran for Senate. In the meantime, she lost to Adam Schiff, who's now sitting in Dianne Feinstein's former seat. And she's now running for governor of California. And California's electoral system, their election system, there's a little bit crazy. They use what's called a jungle primary. And you might hear it called a nonpartisan primary. And that means, sorry, do you have a point?
No, it's just a jungle. You think they would reword that.
You're still allowed to say, Joe Biden made it okay to say jungle.
Yeah.
Anyway, what that term means is that in the primary, everybody runs against everybody. And the top two candidates advance in the general. So in California, which is effectively a one-party state, Democrats dominate pretty much everything. You might get the usual Democrat versus Republican election if they're the top two candidates in the primary. But because it's so Democrat skewed, you might get Democrat v. Democrat in the general.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee that it's going to be opposing parties. And so that is the context for the interview about running for governor with Katie Porter that has now gone viral this week. CBS Sacramento reporter Julie Watts had what we'll see is just a standard list of questions. She didn't make something up to get Katie Porter. There's like a dozen people running for governor in California. And Julie Watts has a list of questions that are just going to all of them as part of a series. So you can go to CBS Sacramento and say, I'm undecided about who I'd like to vote for California governor in the primary coming up next June. Let's see how all of them answer the same questions so I can compare. That's what we're looking at here. Not some reporter with an agenda trying to get her and trying to make her look bad or something. One of those questions on the list is, what do you say to Trump voters? Trump got 40% of the vote in California. What do you say to the people who voted for him? And how would you court them? And watch Katie Porter become enraged at just the slightest touch of challenge to maybe consider the other side, a perspective other than her own. This clip is 3 minutes long. It's much longer than I'd usually play, but
Yeah.
I think it's important to see this one in full.
What do you say to the 40% of California voters who you'll need in order to win, who voted for Trump?
How would I need them in order to win, man?
Well, unless you think you're going to get 60% of the vote. You think you'll get 60%. Everybody who did not vote for Trump will vote for you. That's what you're
In a general election, yes. If it is me versus a Republican, I think that I will win the people who did not vote for Trump.
What if it's you versus another Democrat?
I don't intend that to be the case.
So how do you not intend that to be the case? Are you going to ask them not to run?
No, I'm saying I'm going to build the support. I have the support already in terms of name recognition. And so I'm going to do the very best I can to make sure that we get through this primary in a really strong position. But let me be clear with you. I represented Orange County. I represented a purple area. I have stood on my own 2 feet and won Republican votes before. That's not something every candidate in this race can say. If you're from a deep blue area, if you're from LA or you're from Oakland, you don't have an experience.
But you just said you don't need those Trump voters.
Well, you asked me if I needed them to win.
So you don't
I
think
feel like this is unnecessarily argumentative. What is your question?
The question is the same thing I asked everybody, that this is being called the empowering voters to stop Trump's power grab. Every other candidate has answered this question. This is not
Correct. And I said I support it.
So, and the question is, what do you say to the 40% of voters who voted for Trump?
Oh, I'm happy to say that. It's the do you need them to win part that I don't understand. I'm happy to answer the question as you have it written, and I'll answer it.
And we've also asked the other candidates, do you think you need any of those 40% of California voters to win? And you're saying, no, you don't.
No, I'm saying I'm going to try to win every vote I can. And what I'm saying to you is that...
Well, to those voters. Okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
You're not going to do the interview with us?
Nope, not like this. I'm not. Not with 7 follow-ups to every single question you ask.
Every other candidate has answered.
I don't care.
Follow-ups.
I don't care. I want to have a pleasant, positive conversation in which you ask me about every issue on this list. And if every question you're going to make up a follow-up question, then we're never going to get there.
Ms.
And
Porter,
we're just going to circle around.
I am an investigative
I have never had to do
reporter.
this before, ever.
You've never had to have a conversation with
to end
a
an
reporter?
interview.
Okay, but every other candidate has done this.
What part of I'm me? I'm running for governor because I'm a leader. So I am going to make...
So you're not going to answer questions from reporters? Okay, why don't we go through? I will continue to ask follow-up questions because that's my job as a journalist, but I will go through and ask these, and if you don't want to answer, you don't want to answer. So nearly every legislative...
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you, and I don't want this all on camera.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you either. I would love to continue to ask these questions so that we can show our viewers what every candidate feels about every one of these issues that they care about.
This nigger voted for Joe Biden.
Joshy Boy, what part of I'm me don't you understand? I'm glad we have a happy experience together. Thank you for that. God forbid we have anything else. Now, before I get into some thoughts about this, it is confirmed that she did not actually rage quit the interview. She almost did.
She almost did.
But she did 20 minutes more after that, according to both CBS and her campaign. So not, in fact, a rage quit, just a false start there.
Now,
and of course, it was so ridiculous. You're getting a lot of people in conservative media talking about this, but even her Democrat potential opponents in California are piling on her for this ridiculous performance. Because, of course, a lot of the Democrat governor's race is going to be Democrat, or a lot of the governor's race in California is going to be Democrat on Democrat. Now, as far as I've seen, the Politico story here quotes her campaign as saying, well, she didn't actually rage quit. That's the only statement I've seen.
Yeah.
I've not seen like a explanation or something defending herself. Maybe I missed it. I don't see a statement from Katie Porter or her campaign other than she didn't actually rage quit. So with that, I have a lot of thoughts about this, but I invite you to share some of yours if you'd like to beforehand.
Well, I remember seeing this on another, I think, what channel was this again? I think it was on
the interview channel?
Yes.
It was CBS Sacramento.
Okay, so I was looking at this on a different on a different YouTube channel. They didn't show that part.
So there are other bad parts. I didn't watch all of it.
No. They didn't show her raging at the reporter like we just saw. They showed it as just a normal standard interview.
Oh, they cut that part out.
Yeah, they cut that part out, and people in the comment section were kind of like, "Oh, so you're just gonna cut out the best part?"
So she bitches about supposed unfair treatment. Meanwhile, they actually cover for her.
Yes.
Hilarious.
At least I'm kind of like she said, for an investigative journalist, your point is you ask the same questions to all the candidates to see how they respond so voters can know who to vote for. Now, the problem is they're all running for California and they're mostly Democrats, so you're not really getting the best of candidates anyway, right?
And if you want to challenge someone, you probably have to challenge a Democrat.
Yeah. I mean, it's just more mental retardation along the lines. And if she somehow wins because she's a woman, I mean, we already say that California's kind of fucked, right? But they're really kind of screwed at this point.
I have so many points about just that 3-minute exchange there. First of all, the way it starts, and I know that's not the start of the interview, it's a segment of it, but the way that she greets that question, which is simply, do you give a shit about 40% of the voters in your state? And she looks at presumably her staff or whoever's behind the camera, get a load of this bitch, like laughing at, you think I give a single shit about conservatives, people who don't vote Democrat in California?
I mean, 40% that voted for Trump in California is a very significant number.
It's the largest number of conservatives in any single state, and I feel very bad for them. They're all captured by Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Sacramento. But if you're you live in a rural community in Northern California or maybe San Bernardino County, these people dominate, and then they look at you and laugh with their fat ogre faces like you don't even matter. So it's the disrespect she shows to the people who disagree with her. It's the disrespect she shows to the reporter here too, though. These are the people who I'm not trying to simp for this reporter or clutch my pearls for this reporter, but these are the people who insist that we have this reverence for the free press, and it's only Trump who would disrespect the press in this. Look at her mocking face of people who disagree with her and this reporter who would dare ask a question on their behalf.
Like she just couldn't believe it was asked to her.
Yes.
She's like, why would I need them to win?
It was what to her?
Like, it's like, why would I need those people to win? It's like,
oh, sorry. I did you say it was requested?
No. It's like when she was asked.
That's it. That's what I was looking for.
Oh, okay. When she asked. No, wait. Does that really amaze you that I can pronounce it correctly?
Yeah. Well, what amazes me is you can, but you choose not to.
Asked? I do it all the time.
No, but you've gone back to the lumberjack tool.
Well, look, man. Sometimes it's the Kaniga in me. All right.
All right. Fine. Fair enough.
It slips out every once in a while.
Kaniga.
Okay, her whole freakout is premised on the idea that this was confrontational or unfairly aggressive. The question couldn't be more basic. What do you say to your opposition? What do you think about them? What would you say to convince them to switch teams and vote for you?
Fuck them.
The question actually presumes nothing. When we think about unfair questions, like when did you start beating your wife? That presumes that you beat your wife. This question presumes nothing. It's just what would you say to your opposition? It's not accusatory. It doesn't accuse you of doing anything wrong. It is politically relevant. It's directly related to the context of this interview. It's totally fair. And she calls it argumentative and nearly rage quits.
Yeah. Look, she just wanted to have a pleasant time, okay?
Exactly. I want a happy experience, Joshy. Well, I'm sorry. Being the governor of the biggest state is not always a happy or positive experience. It will be at times extremely challenging, very unhappy. And you will have to be up to the challenge. So some might like to see you tested. That means accepting the challenge now. And by the way, this wasn't even a challenge, at least on the scale that you're going to face if you become governor. Voters are not, in fact, looking for a happy only experience from you. They're looking for how you maybe not in California. California just sees the D for Democrat, and that's good. So I don't know. But generally speaking, voters are not looking for happy only. They want to see how you face adversity, because that's what a good leader does. A good leader sees people through tough times. Really, anybody can be a leader through happy and easy. Difficult, tough, unhappy. That's where true leaders rise. So even her happy experience commentary is nonsense. But did you catch what she said at the start, Joshy, where the reporter, because the initial question is, what do you say about Republican voters that you probably have to win to become governor? Well, why would I have to win them?
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Okay. She said as part of that, or actually the reporter followed up and said, Well, what if you face a Democrat, though? Because again, that's possible. It could be Democrat v. Democrat in the governor's race in the general in California. Mm-hmm. And her response is, I don't intend for that to be the case.
Yeah,
and I find that to be...
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
She's talking like she already won.
Well, it's either that... Well, to me, that implies like you have some degree of influence or control about who your opponent will be. And the reality is she kind of does. Because of this jungle primary. So instead of leaving it to the parties to decide who their leader or who their candidate is going to be, which is how most places elsewhere decide, it might be open in the voting. That is, anybody can vote in one primary or another, like it is how it's conducted in my state of Montana, or you might have to be a registered member of that party to vote. But either way, people are voting in that party's primary for the candidate. In this case, anybody could face anybody. And what that means is you end up with this effect where the leading candidates can exert influence to try to pick the opposition that they want. This happened sort of with Gavin Newsom in 2018. So Gavin Newsom sort of subtly helped the Republican candidate, John Cox, finish top 2 in the primary because he wanted to face that Republican candidate. He did not want to face a Democrat because he thought that he had less of a chance there. So Newsom ran ads, and he conducted some phone campaigns that were subtly promoting Cox in the primary. I know.
I'm sorry. Middle schooler in me. Continue.
Well, Gavin Newsom does. He doesn't subtly promote Cox. He aggressively promotes them.
That's a big game, man.
But yes, this guy's name was Cox. All right. So he's promoting this Republican opposition, and he got that Republican opposition, and of course he won re-election. Now, is Katie Porter saying the same thing here? Oh, I'll make sure I get the opponent that I want. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And Katie Porter also has an impressive prior record of being a crazy person. So this is hardly out of character. Now, I love this story. When other people... This reporter should consider herself lucky because when other people piss her off, she throws boiling pots of potatoes at their faces.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Her ex-husband says in divorce papers in court, he said that she frequently verbally abused him and threw toys, books, and other objects at him during their marriage. Once she poured scalding hot mashed potatoes on his head during a fight, she said.
Jeez.
It looks like she's made of scalding hot mashed potatoes. So that tracks. She just she just ripped something out of her underboob there and threw it at him. Anyway, she's made claims. So there's all kinds of, these are claims made in a divorce case. They might be exaggerated. I don't know. I mean, divorce cases are messy.
True, though.
She has testified or made claims in Congress that she's a victim of domestic violence, domestic abuse. I haven't seen any evidence of that. The opposite's probably true. She throws boiling potatoes at people's faces.
Yeah.
Staff says that she has been abusive for years. And there was one case of a staffer supposedly in 2023 giving her COVID. And Katie Porter got so mad that she fired her. Now, Katie Porter doesn't dispute the firing or the transmission of COVID, but says that that person was on some sort of set term and their term was expiring anyway, so they were going to go. It wasn't a firing, but anonymous staffers have accused her of creating a hostile work environment. One said she made multiple staffers cry. A former fellow Orange County congressman called her a bully in 2024. But there was a leak earlier today. Apparently staffers they've had enough of this bitch, and they're putting the proof out there. This is Katie Porter attempting to record some kind of political message, and she's yelling at her staff to get out of the shot.
State could lose. Get out of my fucking shot.
I wanted to tell you that that's actually incorrect. It's not that it's electric vehicles. It's that if we don't meet the commitments under the Paris Climate Accord.
Okay, it does. Okay, you also were in my shot before that. Stay out of my shot.
Stop the hammering.
Same energy.
California's future leader, she'll get voted in. Trust me.
Well, I'll get to her prospects in a moment, but yeah, it would not be shocking. And you tell me, Joshy, I know that's a 20-second clip, hard to judge. The person's far away. But doesn't it seem like that staffer is totally unfazed by this lady being a total crazy bitch to her?
She is totally used to it. Just
So,
like,
yeah.
the crazy ogre lady's yelling at me. I'm just
That's
like,
Katie.
I just wanted to correct this and say this. My bad.
Hopefully she doesn't throw any potatoes. I can't really. The stove behind her looks empty, so don't worry about any
She
hot
probably got
pots.
it right beside her because she said, "This is the second time you was in my shot, bitch."
Now, whatever's going on, whether Katie Porter is being unfairly accused by her staff or even if there's some explanation, she does have high turnover rates at her on her staff. And this is according to public records, a public records data organization that tracks these numbers. She's got more turnover on her staff than other members of Congress. So people are leaving for a reason, it would seem. But here is the most insane thing I've ever heard Katie Porter say, and there are many examples out there. But she said this after Trump's win last year. This is dated November 10th, so just a couple days after. And I didn't hear it until this week. She said that her 12-year-old daughter asked her, "What if I get raped and I can't get an abortion?" because of Trump, of course.
So on election night, I went to pick up my daughter from water polo practice, and she's 12, and she got in the car and she was crying. And I said, "Did someone punch you?" Like, water polo is a rough sport. I was like, "Did someone hit you? Did the coach yell at you? What happened?" And she said, "Mom, Trump won. Trump's going to win. And what if I get raped and I need to have an abortion?" This is from a 12-year-old, my 12-year-old daughter. And so it was really a reminder of how scary this time is for people, and how important it is for Democrats to have strategies, both at the state level and the federal level, to make sure that we can continue to protect people's rights.
Okay.
So Katie Porter herself shared that clip in November of last year. She thinks this is sensible and makes her look smart, or like she has good things to say.
People love bringing their kids into political ponds, right? I've seen this. It's mostly on the left, but we've seen it on the right side too. But the thing is that I work church maintenance. It's also a private school. There are kids around. I can guarantee you, no 12-year-old talks like this.
Well, that's my question for you is, one of two things is true here, and you tell me what you think is more likely. Either she's just a straight up liar and this never happened, which I hope is the case, because that's way better, even though she's a liar, but who cares? She's a mashed potato thrower too, so what's the difference at this point? Made the story up in the same way people make up their hoax hates. Yeah. Or it's 100% true, and she has conditioned her 12-year-old daughter to be afraid of rape, not only afraid of rape, but to want abortion as a reasonable solution to that.
I don't know.
What do you think is more likely?
Natural me would be like, it's the former, because you obviously made this shit up. But other skeptical me would be like, no, the latter could be very plausible.
That it's real. The amazing thing, if it's real, is not just what you're doing to your kid. Like, who teaches a 12-year-old to be afraid of rape and then the idea that abortion's a solution? But in the scenario where her 12-year-old daughter gets raped, Katie Porter is apparently more worried that Donald Trump will not allow an abortion than, like, I don't know, let's go find that rapist and make sure he's brought to justice. It seems like a more pressing concern to me.
It's the same kind of. Oh, go ahead.
Well, if you're worried about this scenario, if you're Katie Porter, there are viable solutions. Number one, protect your daughter from rapists. And you can do that two ways. Locking up criminals. I know that's a foreign concept in California, but you can do it. And another foreign concept in California, arm yourself to defend yourself from such people, these bedroom intruders.
I would not trust that crazy bitch with a gun.
That's
sorry.
true. You're right. All right, fine.
She already is known as a serial mashed potato thrower. Okay.
Second Amendment stops at Katie Porter. She gets an assault mashed potato gun, but that's all. And then secondarily, you stop the criminals and you teach your daughter proper values so that abortion is never on the table. Number one, she wouldn't put herself in the position of having an unwanted pregnancy. But number two, that if it did happen, that she would value life. This is Katie Porter saying, imagine a world where my daughter can't murder my granddaughter. How terrible. We can't have Trump enforcing that on us.
It's the same kind of condition. I know people like to shit on Greta Thunberg, right? I can't get mad at somebody like that because I know what happened, right? She got conditioned into that kind of lifestyle, right?
How dare you?
You mean that she's a retarded child who was
she was an autistic
conditioned
child
to
who
become some kind of crazy boat lady going to Gaza. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. She's one of the very few people on the left. I cannot bring myself to hate.
Is it
this?
Is it because of her mashed potatoes?
No.
Oh, people are admiring those lately.
I understand that. But the thing, I legitimately do feel bad for her because I know that she got conditioned into this mess.
Yeah,
so I don't
she's
know,
been
I
brainwashed
guess.
from a young age, but she's old enough now. I'm over it. I don't feel any sympathy. But you mentioned the likelihood of becoming the governor of California. Katie Porter has a very good chance to become California's next governor next year. In fact, she's currently the front runner. It's early. It's a crowded field. There's not a lot of polling, but the Real Clear Politics polling average from the end of July through mid-September has her leading with 18% support, followed by a few Republicans, Chad Bianco, Steve Hilton. Porter has a strong lead among Democrats. The next Democratic candidate who is in the polls here is former Biden HHS Secretary Javier Becerra, or as Joe Biden called him, Javier Baccaria, or Jose Taqueria, or maybe Jorge Diarrhea.
That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
Do you remember when he did that? That was great. It was his own nominee. For HHS is Javier Baccaria or something like that. I don't fucking know who that guy, whatever.
It's a Hispanic looking motherfucker.
Yeah, that guy. He might be governor. Who knows? If Katie Porter crashes and burns. Hard to tell how much damage Katie Porter has just done to her campaign. I think there will be a significant amount, but there is no voting until June. So she has a lot of time to maybe make up for it. However, can this mashed potato lady make up for it? The more she talks, the more she exposes herself to any scrutiny, even the lightest scrutiny, the worse she does. Remember, she didn't win in the Senate. She has not performed extremely well in any kind of statewide election. So I know that she's technically the favorite right now, but I would not be surprised to see Katie Porter crash and burn in this governor's election. We'll have to evaluate going into the spring.
Well, Godspeed on that. We'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk AOC. Her Katie Porter's partner in hiding for their lives on January 6th.
The one who saved my life.
AOC, I don't know who saved who or if they saved each other. Okay. But AOC has stepped in it this week too. AOC was having one of her Instagram streams and she started riffing about how White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller is supposedly short. She's never seen him before, but he seems short. So, wow, what a loser.
Laugh at them. Stephen Miller is a clown. I've never seen that guy in real life, but he looks like he's 4'10". He looks like he is angry about the fact that he's 4'10". And he looks like he is so mad that he is 4'10", that he's taken that anger out at any other population possible. This is about insecure masculinity. And one of the best ways that you can dismantle a movement of insecure men is by making fun of them.
So AOC says we have to laugh at our opponents. We have to mock our opponents. It's too bad that no Democrat has made a funny joke in years. Good luck. When's the last time you heard a good AOC zinger? When's the last time she made you laugh intentionally, Joshy Boy?
Intentionally? I don't think ever. Her face makes me laugh. So I guess that counts.
There are meme depictions of her face that make me laugh, but I don't think that counts.
No, it doesn't.
She's also saying that her opponents, Stephen Miller, the rest of the context is her opponents are so unserious that they should be mocked. They should be laughed at. Well,
That's
are they?
The girl sitting in a hoodie. How old is she again?
She, it always makes me feel ancient that AOC is 2.5, 3 years younger than I am. She is 35.
Are you fucking serious?
Yeah. So I guess she can mock me as an old man. Fair enough. Guilty as charged. But are your opponents so unserious? That is to say, AOC, go ahead. Make me a stream explaining point by point why Stephen Miller is wrong about immigration, which is presumably what you hate him for. I want to see this. The thing is, that will be funny unintentionally. It'll be one of the funniest things you've ever made unintentionally. The truth, of course, is a little bit of both. If someone can, what's the quote? The truth wrapped in a good joke is irresistible. If you can deliver strong argument with a little bit of humor, that's the way you win. Not just calling people short as though that's funny.
Well, they're not funny.
But of course, well, yeah, that even what do you think is a bigger liability for that party? Now, their policy positions are borderline communistic, so that's a problem. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are straight up communist, but that's a problem. But is that a bigger or smaller problem than their total lack of humor and their awful ability to message?
I think their ability to message and have humor is actually a bigger problem than them being actual communists.
The thing is, they go hand in hand too. What makes a good joke funny? The fact that it's true. Yeah. Usually it's some sort of taboo truth. You're not supposed to say it. That contributes to humor. But the reason leftist memes don't land is not just because they're blocks of text that nobody wants to read. It's because they're based on untrue premises, so they're not funny. I mean, they're kind of ironically funny because they suck so bad.
Yeah.
But they're not funny in the gut laugh kind of way. So it's hard to have one without the other. Like, can you be funny with total disconnection to the truth? Not really. Only in the way that people are laughing at you, not with you.
Mm-hmm. Danger Spaces says that she's 5'4" herself, so that means how tall she is.
I mean, the point obviously is we're comparing men to women.
Mm-hmm.
No sensible person would do that. Although she has a follow up here.
Women make fun of men's height a lot.
Of course, and of course I am actually unironically not taking shots at shorter guys as someone who is wrongfully accused of being a short king myself all the time. This is not to say that shorter guys can't succeed with women. They can, but there's no doubt that it is a disadvantage that women will flock to the guy who's 6 foot plus, regardless of other. It's just perceived power. It's perceived strength.
Yeah.
And women inherently are drawn to that. It's just the way of the world. I know for some guys that sucks in the same way that, I wish I still had my mop head of hair, and I don't. But it's just one of those things that we have to accept about what attracts men and women to each other. And so for her to act like those things are irrelevant, but also be making fun of men on that basis is incoherent and unintentionally hilarious. But of course, it's an element of body shaming too. This is from the sort of person who would oppose body shaming. Don't call that chick a fat bitch because that's body shaming. But he can be, a short guy, and that's funny inherently.
All in the name for protecting a woman's ego. You can't body shame me because I'm a woman, but fuck you if you're short.
Yeah, and so short kings everywhere have become enraged, rightfully so. Yeah. Hey, and AOC, I'm 4'10". Why don't you think I'm a good guy? And so AOC has to answer for that.
Go ahead.
Well, I got her follow-up, but if you had a point you want to make, go ahead.
Yeah, I looked it up because I'm ignorant. But a short king is somebody who is 5'8" or less.
Ooh. 5'8" qualifies as short king?
I don't see how that qualifies as a short king.
Isn't that like half a men, maybe more?
Dude, that's average. What do you
Yeah, that's a lot. Short king might be majority, depending on where you're measuring.
Yeah, that is average.
Where in the world, I should say.
I'm probably a little taller than that, but that is average amongst most men.
Well, AOC has to respond for this aggression, and she did it in classically nonsensical AOC fashion. Is AOC going to apologize to all these short kings? No. Is she acknowledging the hypocrisy of someone who opposes shaming women for their bodies, now shaming a man for his? No. She's clarifying. That's what she's doing. She's clarifying that she only means that Stephen Miller is spiritually short.
I want to express my love for the short king community. I don't believe in body shaming. I am talking about how big or small someone is on the inside. Like, for example, I have no idea how tall Andrew Tate is. No idea at all. But that guy looks to me like 5'3", like 5'3", 5'4". Whereas physically, men of smaller stature can come across, they are spiritually 6 foot. If you're a good dad, if you stand with women, if you're not belittling immigrants, you're like, 6'3" spiritually. I don't know. Am I being problematic?
So my favorite response on X was this one. Hey, I don't believe in fat shaming. I'm only talking about how much of a gluttonous piece of shit he is on the inside. I don't believe in race shaming. I'm only saying he was spiritually Israeli and an N-word on the inside. Even if I were to grant that she's talking only spiritually, not actually, well, you still have to explain, why is short inferior? Why is spiritually short bad? And if it is, then why is being actually short not bad? Well, it's not bad because short men can do great things too, she says. Like, you could be great dads, so you can be spiritually tall because you're a great dad. That was part of the commentary we heard there. Lady, you are 36 and childless, and your husband is a fruit. Okay? You are spiritually short in that regard. So what are you doing?
Is she actually married? I thought she was engaged.
Yeah. No, she's married to I thought they were married. You might be right.
No, because I saw Jesse Waters say they've been engaged for 3 years.
That's even worse.
Yeah,
they're not even married yet?
No, I was like, well, either you marry or you
don't. She is a spiritual Oompa Loompa. What is she doing?
So either you marry or you don't. Maybe chat would correct me on this, but this is why. But here's the thing. Oh, by the way, Andrew Tate, I looked it up. He's 6'3".
Okay.
So
spiritually 4'10".
Yes, spiritually a 4'10".
But by her own definition, being a great dad, spiritually tall. Stephen Miller is then spiritually tall, in addition to being 5'10", is what he says. Stephen Miller has 3 kids. He's married. He and his wife, by all accounts, do a great job of raising their kids. Meanwhile, this lady, AOC, is just stacking on the spiritual pounds on her spiritual juicy booty. But she needs to come to terms with Alex Stein in that regard too, because Alex Stein was not saying that you have a giant Latina ass. He was just saying that you have a spiritually juicy booty.
Look at that big ass. Look at that big juicy booty.
You think she ever fantasizes about that stuff?
No, everyone fantasizes about her and wants to date her, but none of us can because she's engaged to a ginger fruit.
For fucking 3 years, what is the problem here?
Yeah, good question.
We don't count engagements as anything.
There's also not a woman alive who thinks that, quote unquote, standing with women, as she said, is spiritually tall for men. Not even AOC believes that at a gut level. It's the opposite. Because if a man stands with women, I defer to everything women say. Whatever a woman wants, I support it. That is not standing tall by definition. It is lowering yourself. It is becoming short, if not in the literal sense, in the spiritual sense. Because it is doing what? When you stand with women, you're saying, I allow women to take the leadership role. And I ride back seat, however you want to put it. I let women lead me. And when you do that, women can sense it. And no matter what they say about how that makes you spiritually tall, they hate that. They reject it. And for good reason, because men are supposed to lead them. It makes everyone happy. Women who talk about how they love men who submit to them, they're liars. They don't, although maybe not AOC. That guy seems like a real bitch.
He's a real bitch. She should have reined that horse face in.
So maybe she is walking the walk here. All right, Joshy, we're right before the top of the hour. Now, we're kind of in an odd spot because I had prepped this story as like a option, depending on if we needed it for time or not.
Yeah.
I don't have a ton to say about it, but you sounded like maybe you wanted to say something about it. Do you want me to play the Don Lemon clip or should we just move on?
What's 10 o'clock?
Well, now I'm in it. I'm going to be spiritually tall, and I'm going to take a leadership role.
Okay.
I'm just going to play. You said you had some thoughts about it. So let me get through it. And you tell me on the other side, and I'll just save whatever I had to say about it. We'll move into the calls. But
gotcha.
Former CNN host Don Lemon has been doing New York City street interviews as part of his new internet show. And there was an interesting exchange between Don Lemon and an older black guy on the stream on Sunday. And Lemon asked the guy what he thinks about Trump and deportations. And the guy says, I love it. In fact, I want more.
How do you feel about the ICE raids? The who?
ICE raid, immigration.
I feel good about them.
Yeah, you want them to crack down?
More, yes.
You do?
Yes, been wanting it for years, all my life.
And what about them, like, roughing people up?
Nah, that shit crazy. Don't put your hands on nobody. That's crazy. Don't hurt nobody. Do it the legal way.
But that's what they're doing, though.
That shit ugly. Then no, I don't feel great about that. I mean, don't hurt nobody. At the same time, get them out of here. Get them all out of here. Please and thank you. Trump 4 more years for that.
Did you
just for that? Just
Did
for
you vote for him?
No, hell no. I can't vote. I lost my voting rights when I was 22 years old. I apologize.
You went away?
Yeah, for assault and battery.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you said 4 more years for Trump?
Just because I want him to concentrate on nothing but immigration and getting them out of here. Just for that.
You don't think they
Nothing
contribute
else.
to the...
Your thoughts?
So I watched the entire interview and everything, and Don Lemon was being Don Lemon, being dishonest and whatnot. He says, "You don't think they contribute to the economy and everything?" Now, there was 2 things I took away from this, and the fact is that yes, there are people in our generation and even the upcoming generation who don't want to work, but at the same time, though, you do have, because of illegal immigration, they are taking away jobs that people might want to do, including this uprising in AI and automation. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. That's pretty much the only commentary I got, but I do like that guy.
And who do you think illegal immigration is taking jobs away from? It's guys like this guy who have...
Yeah.
Obviously, he's a convicted felon, violent convicted felon. So he's done some stuff. He has some problems. However, if he has paid his debt to society and maybe reformed himself, I don't know. And I know that's sometimes... a tall order. Some people never reform in that way. But what I'm saying is the sort of person exists who has committed a violent crime and still wants to reform and contribute to society. It's going to be uphill. You're going to have to find an entry-level job with someone who really needs you to mop floors or something like that. But for the guy who wants to do the honest, good thing and recover from mistakes in his past life, who do you think he's competing with? Is he competing with white-collar workers with college educations? No. He's competing with Juan and Jorge, who showed up yesterday. So it makes perfect sense that this sort of guy would not appreciate that sort of competition. And Don Lemon, well, what do you say? Don't they contribute to the economy? Yes. I also know that prostitutes, drug dealers, human traffickers contribute to the economy in the sense that they generate dollars. There are moral questions about whether we ought to allow that sort of behavior. Am I saying that everybody who comes over the border on questionable terms is a prostitute, trafficker, drug dealer? No, but many are. A lot are. Do we want to, the dollars that those people generate, do we actually want those dollars generated? The idea that dollar generated equals moral good always inverts those things. Moral truth matters more than the dollar sign, you know. There are things you can do in pursuit of the dollar sign that are wildly immoral, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, fascinating exchange.
The last thing I was saying, you would think somebody like Don Lemon, who probably loves black people, right? A little too much, if you ask me.
No, he likes white guys a little too much, actually, according to his marital relationship. Are they married or are they still engaged?
I have no idea, and I don't care. But the thing is, you would think he'll stand up. Well, he's half black anyway. You would think he will stand up and like, look, illegal immigration is affecting my people, and I want to make sure my people do good. So illegal immigration needs to get out of here, right? You think he'll be advocating for that, but he's Don Lemon, the most, anyway, raging homo ever.
He's a fag.
You ready for calls?
Yes, I'm ready for calls.
Okay, I got to unmute myself. Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Oh, that's right, because
well,
last time I embarrassed myself and didn't do that.
Let's talk to Vong. Vong, are you there?
Hello there, Matt.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. Doing well. I'm somewhat surprised that Tim didn't kick me out of the call because I was praying my rosary when he pulled me in, and, well, that means I'm praying in Latin. I know that hacks off the Protestants.
Well, why would Tim be mad about that?
Are you Catholic or Protestant?
I'm joking around mostly, but no, just the Protestants. Well, onwards to the topic. As always, traditions must be upheld. Chat, I drink your tears.
Don't bait them, but go ahead. Yeah. I'm sure there will be. I don't know if they're tears to drink, but or middle fingers to observe. One of the two. Maybe Katie Porter mashed potatoes coming your way.
I just do that because, it tells them, Yeah, I know you hate me, and I don't care at all, and I never.
Well, we're all hated in some way. That's what makes this
Absolutely.
this corner of the internet.
Real quickly, can
its
you
own
hear
thing.
me?
Absolutely. That's why it's fun. So,
yeah, can you hear Joshy or not? Hold on. Can you
no,
hear?
I can't actually.
Oh, Joshy, are you sure you're unmuted?
I am unmuted. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, okay. We might have just a little technical difficulty. Vaughn, why don't you go ahead and I'll relay thoughts to Joshy. We'll discuss when you're finished. Sorry about that, Joshy.
I can hear him.
Sounds good.
Well, then you must be muted somewhere, or check your mic input.
Yeah, it said Discord saying something about my mic input.
Yeah, see if you can get the right mic headed to Discord, and I'll handle Vaughn in the meantime.
Okay,
Sorry, Vaughn. The duct tape rolls on.
Indeed, it does. So I'm calling in because, right, I understand I'm not trying to come at you for this, but there's a theological disagreement I have with something you said last week's call and show that I want to discuss.
Oh
with
no,
you.
it better not be the point of marriage.
It is actually.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
Don't make me tap the sign.
What do you think?
So I agree that one of the purposes of marriage is indeed the generation of children. With that said, there's more to it than that we need to consider. And I'm sure that there is more than just that contained within what you intended to say, but I do need to point a few other things out because it's very important that we keep our definitions straight. Long story short, kids who are just born and then not well raised, well, that's failure on the parents' part, isn't it?
Of course. Yeah.
That's a failure in the marriage.
That's the point, is the marriage serves the children. Yeah, that's exactly it. You don't go but that's what the marriage does. And so if I were to betray the marriage and go sleep with a bunch of women because, I don't know, I feel like it, or I'm trying to create more children or something, that's exactly it. Betraying the marriage betrays the purpose of it, which is the production, the protection, the raising of those kids.
But there's more than just betraying the marriage in that way. It's generation of children, yes, but also their education.
Don't make me tap the sign.
It's which one is primary. Okay. Not all of these purposes are the exact same thing, or there is an order of importance here. That is to say, there's something that separates my marriage from every other relationship that I have. What is that thing?
What is that thing? It's the sacrament of marriage, specifically.
And why is it sacred? Just because? Or is there a reason?
No, a sacrament is a divinely instituted external symbol of an internal sanctifying grace given by our Lord.
And why, though? Why would the Lord do that? Doesn't that imply that there's a difference between that relationship and every other one?
Yes, there is. But again,
okay.
I'm not going to claim to know why the Lord chose to make this a sacrament. As Scripture says, as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are the ways of God above the ways of man. I will not claim to know the whys and wherefores of the Lord. We do know what this is for, though. Again, but it is by their ends that we know things, right? So, yes, propagating the human race, also educating the children, raising them correctly, instilling in them the proper morals, right?
Right. What you're talking about is a marriage serving the children in every way possible. And that's exactly my point.
But here's the thing. In order to serve the children in every way possible, there has to be the correct relationship between husband and wife, sharing life in common, right? And the sharing of life in common involves the children by its necessity because the mother and father are around each other, right? As well as around the children.
I don't understand how any of this is contrary to what I'm saying, which is to say all the purposes you're identifying are in service to the production of children.
That's okay. So the person who emailed in, I think it was, said something about the purpose of the conjugal union, let's call it, being not solely for the production of children. And there's a certain view that some divisions of, especially Protestantism, take that it is only for that, which I don't go to either of these sides because they each go too far. There is another purpose to it being the unification of the two spouses. And this is deeply important because another purpose of marriage is the mutual sanctification of both spouses. You're supposed to be working with each other, helping each other draw closer to God together.
Yeah, I don't
part of it.
I don't dispute any of I think maybe the heart of what appears to be a disagreement here, and I don't actually think there is much, frankly, is whether it is only or whether there are additional things. And I've never said only, I'm saying the primary. the defining feature of the male-female relationship is the production of children. There are all sorts of secondary responsibilities that act in service to that. But there is a reason that the relationship is sacred in the way you're describing, and it is because of that defining feature that no other relationship shares.
No other comparable or no other intimate relationship, I think we can say, would be more precise. That is in some ways correct. The other part of it is that, well, any other type of intimate relationship is inherently sinful.
And again, my question would be why? What makes those sinful? Like, what makes the substitution of man and man, or man and even multiple women potentially, sinful?
Yeah, this is what we call divine law. That, the biblical condemnation of sodomy and things like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, my answer would be that one is incapable of producing children, so it is contrary to the purpose of the relationship. The other is that the polygamous marriage is not in service to the children. That is to say, by having children with multiple wives, you are not doing the best job possible for each individual child.
There is some truth to the latter. I agree with the former. There's a certain amount of truth to the latter, but there's also the consideration we have to take of that for this reason a man shall leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife, and the two shall be as one. The two shall be as one flesh, right? And to unite, for a man to be with multiple women in that way, well, I think we all know what the transitive property is, right? In math, 2 + 3 is equal to 3 + 2.
It's so crazy these days that I just hear trans and I think it's going gender. You're talking mathematics here.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate you calling in and challenging the point once again.
Don't make me tap the sign.
Frankly, I'm feeling like Katie Porter here. This has gotten very argumentative, and I don't think it's. I'm going to rage quit this call, and I will bid you adieu. But hey, I appreciate it. Frankly, I understand the points that you're making. I'm not trying to dismiss. I think it's this is important to talk about because there's probably no more fundamental principle in the world than this. So I remain. Like I said, these conversations make me feel like silly, crazy something because it means either I'm the most boring person in the world, that this is my take that gets people, or in my opinion, we just lack clarity on something that's so important. I'm not saying you, I'm just saying that to me, this is not confusing. And to the degree that there's confusion out there, again, not from you personally, but just like in the world, we wonder what this relationship is about is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah. Read Orwell's A Note on Newspeak's, an appendix of 1984. It'll make a lot of things like that make sense.
Well, thanks for the call,
in
man.
the audience. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Y'all take care.
Yep. I finally fixed my mic. I realized what happened. I was using the laptop microphone for Discord.
There you go.
And not the Yeti.
Did you want to make me tap the sign before we move on?
No, we can move on.
Okay.
I joined late, so.
All right. We're going to talk to Skulldugger next. Skulldugger, are you there?
Hey!
Are you going to make me tap the sign?
No, I'm going to be honest with you, Matt. I don't understand how people are like not getting this at this point. You have been ridiculously clear in your communication.
Well, thank you.
Your perspective. How anybody does not understand it. Like at this point, people are just being purposefully obtuse.
I don't think so. I think that I don't think they think I'm unclear. I think they just disagree, but I'm not sure that I'm persuaded otherwise. Yeah.
But even some of them don't even really disagree. It's just that they keep getting hung up on the difference between solely and primary. You've never communicated that you think that the purpose is solely, the purpose of marriage is solely for the production of kids. You've always made it very clear that it's the primary function, which is absolutely. I mean, that's true on its face. Like
we love you. You're very special.
I assume there was another reason for your call, though. As much as I appreciate it.
Well, I'm just checking in as a short king. I need to have
how tall are
you? 5'6".
Oh yeah, you're definitely a short king.
So are you going to write AOC a letter?
I'm not convinced she can read. So
now that you seen her forced face, she has to read it on one side of her face and then go to the other side of her face.
She probably has a staffer that reads it to her.
Most likely.
She then yells at. Because all Democrats are mean to their staffers. That's not like.
And instead of potatoes, she throws like something like bell peppers or whatever. It's just
You know,
Hispanic.
when you say
Something
all,
spicy.
there are very similar allegations against Amy Klobuchar too that came out when she ran for president. It seems like the mean girl thing is real in politics.
Yeah, I mean, Hillary Clinton had the exact same thing. Like, it's a common theme. Dianne Feinstein had similar complaints. Like, it's especially the women. It appears the theme appears to be Democrat women.
Yeah. Was there something else you wanted to talk about? I didn't mean to consume your entire call. Was it just short kings?
Yeah, that's the main thing. I'm
short
also
king sympathy.
I feel like this is some of the topics were like specifically targeting me tonight. You know, the short king from California. Like, you know, we talked a lot about California politics because of the Katie Porter thing.
Can I ask you briefly? And I know this might be a dense topic, so feel free to disregard it. But
sure.
When AOC talks about like spiritual tallness and all, like, I guess I'm just asking, what has your experience with women been as a short king? If that's not too personal to ask.
So I just got out of a like long marriage.
Okay.
So I'm not quite back in the dating scene, so we will see. It appears to be bleak from my current understanding. Is there's the whole was it 6 foot, 6 pack, 6 figures?
Dude, the dating scene right now is why I will probably in a few years' time be actually gay.
Yeah. No, I completely
Thanks for forecasting it.
I completely understand that sentiment. I would have a much more fruitful time with men, pun intended.
Much more fruitful.
Look at this fat.
Look, man.
Hey,
it's fucked out here.
Or I just have to move to some place where it's not crazy. Like the women around here are all nuts. So
everybody in that state. Yeah, you just maybe you need to move to a place where everybody's really short, like one of those Pacific islands or something.
Dude, all you gotta do is move to Latin America.
Island?
Yeah. Sorry, what were you saying, Joshy?
All you gotta do is move to Latin America. Everybody's short there.
Yeah.
I'm surprised she hasn't pissed off the Latin community.
Go find your Brazilian queen to your short king. Something like that. All right, man. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it.
All right. Go tap that sign.
Thank you. I will. I'll do that.
Don't make me tap the sign.
Okay. Next up is Fwen. Fwen, are you there?
Yeah, hello.
What's on your mind, sir?
Much to Skulldugger's chagrin, I'm not going to talk about short. I kind of want to just tangentially touch on the marriage thing, which I know is probably old, but hopefully this will be an interesting to approach it.
Okay.
Because, like, yeah,
I have the sign ready.
It's totally it largely is like an overestimate, but I think there is an interesting conversation we had about like the order of like for the good of the spouses and their mutual sanctification and then the rearing of children, like the and I think to get at that, it would be an interesting question, and maybe this will make your wife upset either way that you answer, but I think a way to think about it is like if you can save your spouse or a child, save.
Who are you saving? Is that sorry? Your mic is kind of cutting in and out a little bit. Are you asking who would I save?
Yeah, you can save, and you know maybe it will make it easier if you're like you have one child, and obviously your wife. You know, who do you save? Who do you prioritize? And obviously you make an effort both. You don't have to qualify it.
Well, is my wife going to be? First of all, I would say my kids absolutely, because they're way cooler than my wife, and she wouldn't even get mad. So, thankfully, I don't have to worry about that. And she would probably agree. She'd be like, "I'm out. I love those boys, so they're getting saved." But to consider your question more seriously, if I were to argue for the wife, it is still for the possibility of future children. Does that make sense? It's obviously, it's like a trolley problem where you're selecting who lives and dies. But the reason that my wife is in consideration is not just for companionship or whatever it is we enjoy doing together. It's because together we possess the capacity to produce children. And if we lose one, that's terrible. However, we've not lost our ability to continue to build family. So I don't know that choosing my wife actually defeats I don't know if that was the point that you were getting at. I kind of inferred that. But I don't know if that is maybe the point that you're getting at. I don't know that choosing your wife necessarily defeats the purpose concept.
Yeah, no, I'm not looking to, because I don't know that it's like so simple. And like even in talking about maybe the priority would be sanctification of the spouses. Like obviously, like when you have children, you're literally unified in flesh in that child. Like these things are so intertwined. I do think a lot of the conversation kind of misses the point of looking like, well, which one's primary and which one's secondary, as much as like these are so intimately intertwined. And then, yeah, funny enough,
agreed.
I'd save my wife is usually the answer that makes the wife more upset.
Yeah, maybe. I guess you're right.
No,
that
what are you doing? Save the kids.
There's a reason for them to Katie Porter out at any answer that is given, but that's always the case with women, you know?
Yeah. And
interesting thoughts. I appreciate it. Go ahead and wrap up your thoughts. And
yeah, last thing was just kind of going to be like the context of where I had started to think about this was, you know, like in preparation for marriage, going through these like pre-Cana classes, like hosted by, you know, couples that have been chosen. And this is like within the Catholic Church is a pretty typical practice of going through this. I just recall like the couple that was leading us very adamant about like you choose your spouse, and some of it was definitely along the lines of you can have more children, and there's also like a way in which kind of to get to the first caller's point, it is a sacramental. I mean, like I believe marriage is a sacrament, and so there is kind of like a unique ontological change and like a way that your souls are intertwined with your spouse, that even with the obvious, you know, weight of the relationship between parents and children, there is something unique that you won't share with anyone else, your spouse.
Yeah, agreed in full. And thank you for the thoughts on this. When I say that I'm amazed this continues to be such a deep topic, it's not to be dismissive of the things that people have to say about it, because it's like I said, I think it's probably the most important principle to get correct. If we get that wrong, our society is going to suffer greatly. So thank you for your contributions in that. I know it's kind of a bit, I don't mean to come off as dismissive. It's amazing to me how much depth there is to this. So thank you for that.
Yeah. All right, gents. Have a nice night.
All right.
You too, man.
Appreciate your call. Okay, Josh, you have any thoughts on any of those calls before we move into voicemails?
Some of that part actually ties into what I'll get into after the email questions. So
yes, your thoughts on natural rights.
Yeah, so I'm gonna save it.
Okay, let's listen to, I just got one voicemail tonight, and I want to remind everybody that if you would like to send a voicemail to the show, you can do that through the contact page on my website. Or it's the number's right there in the description of the show. You can go to the contact page of my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/contact. You can click to call, or if you need to dial it in, it is 406-312-5731. We'll take your voicemails and respond to them on the show as well. I do have one, so let's listen to this caller.
Hey, Matt, you guys were talking about death. I had a couple thoughts. When a toxic person dies, what makes me sad is that they never found a way in this life to connect with people in a meaningful and positive way, and the opportunity is now gone. I think that's just a horrible way to live and a horrible place to be when you die. Due to several events in my life, I've thought a lot about relationships and people dying, both literally and figuratively. There's some departures that I've celebrated and some that I've mourned. In light of those, I've learned to differentiate between being happy that a toxic person is out of my life while also mourning that they've chosen to or were not able to be better people. I'm grateful that they are no longer have direct influence in my life, while at the same time regretting that I was not able to help them find a better path. One of my favorite sayings is simply, I'm the boss of me, you're the boss of you. For the most part, I get to choose who and what I let into my life, and taking personal responsibility for that has led me to cut out some people while also working harder with others who are actually willing to try and have good relationships. So appreciate the show, brother. You're awesome.
Well, thanks for the kind words and for calling. I like this perspective, Joshy. So he's talking about since the Charlie Kirk assassination, which you actually haven't been on the show since then. You did the show before, the Sunday before. So as you've probably heard, just all kinds of discussion on this show with the rest of the guys who sit in and with people who call and contribute and listeners. It's this ongoing discussion of what is the proper way to handle who I call the demon people without becoming a demon. And how should we, as people trying not to be demonic, handle the deaths of people who we consider to be bad or even our enemies? Or what is the mirror image? Like for the demon people celebrating the Charlie Kirk death, how should we conduct ourselves if something similar happened to someone we don't like, someone we consider to be a bad person? And what I appreciate about the caller's perspective there is it recognizes the fundamental principle: all life has purpose. So even the people we don't like because they've done bad things objectively, all right, there's nothing wrong with feeling a sense of relief that that person's not part of your life anymore, or maybe not contributing additional bad to the world. Yeah. But I like that he still properly mourns that life failed to fulfill its purpose. All life has purpose. That life failed to fulfill it. Wouldn't it have been better if it had? Maybe there's something I could have done to help that life pursue its purpose better. And I like that it's introspective in that way. And I know there are a lot of lost causes out there that maybe you shouldn't waste your time on trying to direct toward their purpose, but there are a lot of edge cases. People who might make this choice or that choice, whose lives might be redirected at any point. And maybe you could do a little bit of that course correction. So I think the caller has great perspective on how this is to be handled. It's not as though you have to have days of mourning for every single death that happens, even the worst people in the world, but it is to stay grounded in the principles that matter here. All life has purpose, and when life fails to fulfill it, there's something sad about that.
So are you, go ahead.
That's all I had on that, but did you have more?
Yeah. The way I kind of look at it in terms of Christianity, right? Yes, we celebrate evil people. When they die, we celebrate the fact that they can't do evil anymore, right? But at the same time, okay, what if we could have turned that evil person around to look at Saul or Paul in this case. Dude systematically killed Christians, but Jesus still found a purpose for him, right? That's how he ended up becoming Paul. So I do believe that everybody should at least be offered a chance of repentance and reconciliation, but it does require two, right? If you try to pursue a relationship that the other person doesn't want, you can't do anything. There's no point. If that person doesn't want to deal with you or wants nothing to do with you,
there are boundaries that have to be recognized. Yeah,
it's sad if that person decides that he or she doesn't need a lot of people in their lives and they end up dying lonely or miserable life.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, I know we make fun of a lot of those on the left and everything, but a part of me does feel like, okay, what if they weren't like this though?
Right? You're right. It is a difficult balance. I have friends in my life, even currently. I wish I could just shake them and say, stop doing what you're doing. You are on the wrong path. All you can do is make your intent to help known and say, hey man, I'm worried about you. If I can help you, please call me and I will do what I can. But other than that, like, I can't grab people and put them in straitjackets unless they're like clinically crazy. But yeah, you're right that like that's how you walk that tightrope.
Yeah. And at some point, which is even hard for me because I even have some siblings who are kind of like that, right? I'm going to use an example case in point. I have a younger sister, right? I've taken care of her all my life. I will continue to take care of her. To cut her off is, I won't say it's impossible for me, but it's pretty damn difficult, right? Because I'm her big brother.
Yeah, family's even tougher.
Yeah, it is even tougher. Like, on one case, it's easier if I was my eldest brother because we've never had a good relationship, but it's not like I totally cut him off. But it's even harder for my youngest sister because we have a close relationship. So if either one headed it on that path and I've tried and they just don't, I will say it hurts, man. So it is difficult. You kind of leave that door open. So it is kind of mournful when a person who refuses to do well or do right dies that way. Yeah, that is to be mourned. But to your point, all life, every person's life does serve a purpose. Whether we feel we've served that purpose or not, it doesn't matter. If Yahweh is going to use you for something, let's take like an evil dictator, right? I'm going to use this guy. Yeah, he's wicked. I wish he turned to me, but I'm going to use him to kind of maybe to fulfill his purpose so I can highlight this person to bring them closer to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the points that is counter to the classic atheist criticism, whatever the supposed paradox is. I forget the technical term. But the concept of how could God be all good when evil exists? Well, we don't know the purposes that evil serves. And it's weird to think that there are ways in which evil serves good, but there are. And it's difficult to wrap your mind around that. But it is, I think, a real occurrence in our world. Anyway, appreciate the caller. Again, if you'd like to send a voicemail to the show, contact page of the website is how you do that. You'll find the phone number and the click to call button there. And we'll move into email questions here, and then we'll get to your super chats after Joshy has said his piece on natural rights. Appreciate our super chatters.
Piss off the chat for a second time.
Well, all right. Good luck. But if you'd like to send an email question to the show, same place, mattchristiansenmedia.com/contact. There's a box there for your text submissions, and we'll get into those right now. So first up is I think it's Be Humble. Be humble is the idea. I always read it as Bumble, but be humble. The right thinks that guns are for self-defense and hunting because that's what they use them for. The left thinks that guns are for murder because that's what they use them for.
Bingo.
Someone's first assumption about what's the purpose or function of something is can be pretty telling. And I get it's the meme I keep referencing. If you would just help us ban the guns, we wouldn't have to shoot you with one.
Yeah.
That is kind of what it seems. It seems impossible to get it through some people's heads. Guns are tools that can be used for good or evil, you know. They're not inherently good or evil on their own. No, they're only bad. They can only be used for bad purposes. To Be Humble's point, is that because in the head of a person who thinks that way, the only reason they see for a gun is killing people? Like, would they kill a person with a gun? I'm not accusing them, but it's just weird to not be able, like a hammer is a wonderful carpenter's tool or it's a murder weapon. Yeah. It needs to be properly applied, but I would never look at a hammer and think, well, that the claw on that thing is only for cracking skulls. No, it's also for pulling nails out of wood. That's why it was designed, actually. I don't know. When someone can't conceive of tools being used for good or evil, it's kind of strange.
It is kind of strange. The other thing is that let's say that we did ban all the guns, right? We're just going to go back to stabbing each other.
Well, many countries have already advanced to just stabbing
look at
each
the
other.
UK, for example.
Yeah. You'll get stabbed for your meme over there. Sing Hortons. So it's not Tim Hortons anymore. It's Sing Hortons.
Okay.
What are your ideas to how to address companies hiring foreign workers over citizens? Unfortunately, too averse to calling in to discuss on my own. He added additional context to this. I've just paraphrased it myself because it was a little bit long.
Yeah.
But Tim Hortons in Canada was started as a locally owned chain of donut shops. It is now foreign owned, with many non-ethnic Canadians owning the individual franchises. It's often staffed by Indian students on visa studies or other temporary workers. Now, obviously, the national makeup of any given business and who's hired, who's not, this is all a function of the country's immigration system. Now, I don't know what's going on in Canada, so don't quote me on it, but I'm guessing that nothing that's happening at Tim Hortons is actually against the law. It might even be the intent of the law in Canada. So the question here is, if you can redesign the law, what would it look like? Well, first, you're going to have to design an immigration system that looks the way that you want it to, and that's going to decide what legal residence or should be and shouldn't be in your country. So from there, let's say we want to restrict that. Too many Indians working at Tim Hortons. We're cracking down. Okay, so you start there. You're going to have some law to that effect. But then there's the question of enforcement. That is to say, you've cracked down on all the Indian Tim Hortons, but there's a bunch of illegal Indians still coming there to make you coffee. Apu style, whatever. How do you? What is your mechanism to reduce that, or how do you stop that sort of thing that is now contrary to the law? Well, as with anything, there's a carrot or a stick method. Now, in the U.S., that is to say, incentives or punishments, or both. They're not mutually exclusive. Now, in the U.S., we have E-Verify, which is a Homeland Security program that allows employers to check the status of job applicants or workers Some states require the use of E-Verify, some don't. The federal government generally requires it for contractors. Some states require it for state workers only. It's a kind of a patchwork of laws across the country, as they say. You could do incentives for using E-Verify, or the Canadian equivalent, if you don't want to just browbeat people into complying. You could, well, hey, tax credits for the use of E-Verify with every employee that you hire. Or you could go the more severe punishment route, or both. In the U.S., it's already against the law to hire illegal labor, though, of course, that hasn't stopped people in recent years.
Yeah.
But the laws are on the books, and the penalties start with fines. They actually move up to criminal penalties for repeat violations. In the U.S., that's just a question of enforcement, and Trump has made various announcements to that effect that we're going to get serious about, especially big employers that hire masses of illegal immigrants, and we're going to make them pay for it. So that's a long way of saying I don't, at least in the U.S., and I can't speak for Canada because I don't know what your legal structure is. I really don't think this sort of thing is as much a problem in the law as it is in enforcement. Illegal immigrants, we use that term because they've violated the law already. People working under the table for low wages have violated the law already. I don't necessarily agree that we need to go to Congress and change all that. There's nothing to change. We just need renewed commitment and resources to enforcing the laws that are already on the books. Maybe Canada's the same. Maybe it's not. I don't know what's going on in Canada, or if there's a bill that passed Parliament that says lots more Indians at Tim Hortons now. That might be what happened. You'd have to tell me what happened up north. But do you have thoughts on that, Joshy?
Well, this is a new question that I have to now think about. Usually, I mean, my first go-to is extreme violence. But
what?
Look, all right. Look,
your first reaction is extreme violence. Okay.
Well,
you sound Pakistani in your reaction to Indians.
At this point, I'm actually more pro-Pakistan than pro-India. I mean,
it's a good question. Which side do I take if I have to?
At this point, it's Pakistan. I know there are a bunch of infidels over there, but you got to pick your point. I mean, India does have Bollywood though, and those movies are pretty fantastic.
No, you sold me. It's Pakistan.
Yeah, sorry.
All right.
Sacrifices have to be made. Go ahead.
No, you were going somewhere. I was just shocked by the violence statement.
When it comes to hiring of foreign workers, one, you just stop the illegal immigrations, and you have to use that with force, right? Then, like we're here, you kind of have to disincentivize companies that do it. I'm going to use the monarchy system, right? Because that's the only way I think, right? I'll tell companies that if you hire illegal immigrants and if you continue to hire them, I'm just basically going to show up with a bunch of armed, burly men and shut you down by force if I have to, right? And I'll send all the illegals back to where they came from, and you'll go right along with them. So everything that you.
Yeah, I mean, you have to stop the people that come over here, and then for the people that are already here, there have to be, to get them to self-deport, the costs of staying here have to be higher than the costs of leaving have to be lower than the costs of of staying.
Leaving at gun. Yeah.
The hell, I'm talking like AOC trying to get out of fat shaming right now. It's that time of night. But what I'm saying is, if the financial risk to companies hiring these people is greater than the savings they achieve by hiring illegal labor, they'll make a reasonable business decision. Same for like if an illegal person who's here already can't find work because the system is actually structured against that, they're going back to Guatemala because the work there is more fruitful.
And you would think that companies would be more money-minded, and it's like, oh, hey, this guy is saying that if we hire these illegal immigrants, he's basically going to take all our stuff by force if we don't stop. Look at the gaming corporations, for example. You would think that they'd be money-hungry and want to focus on their consumer base, but they're
You mean video games? Or
yeah, video games.
Okay.
They're so focused on identity politics, though, that they're willing to sacrifice that for the sake of, we want to be shown that we're inclusive and everything.
That's true. I will say in the last few years, political allegiance has shown remarkable vigilance against market forces, bafflingly so. Mm-hmm. Companies are willing to take massive hits in pursuit of political allegiance.
Yeah.
So, but there is a limit. You go out of business eventually.
Eventually. I mean, look at Disney. They haven't gone out of business yet, but we pray that they will.
All right. Next up is, I don't even know how to pronounce this. You got to guess? Natalage? Yeah, we're going with that?
Yes. I'm trying to
Nat
I'm trying to
age,
sound it out
Natil
in my
age.
head. It's like axed or whatever.
Don't ask this guy.
Yeah.
He can't even say ask. All right. With some recent observations about immigration, Portland, Tipton, and the Constitution only working for religious people, I observed a common thread. The left primarily has no concept of justice. Arguments made for immigration or anti-ICE arguments hinge on the emotional rather than the laws that were broken. Broken laws demand justice, without which chaos and lawlessness reigns. This proverb, a quote from Proverbs 21:15. When justice is done, it is a joy to the righteous, but terror to the evildoers. Doesn't that seem to apply to the current times? Yeah. Anyway, the reason I think there's confusion on this is that justice is inherently tied to morality. Justice in the criminal sense is punishment for moral violation. You are getting what is deserved to you because of your violation of some sort of moral rule, moral law. You can't really define justice, what is deserved by a person or to a person, without some reference to or appeal to a moral framework. And usually, traditionally, that is God, the concept of God, whoever wrote the rules about this place. Mm-hmm. But without God, as has become clear to me in recent years, morality becomes subjective. Each person defines it for himself. Not only are there different moralities, there's no universal truth, but they change in a moment's notice. Like you could decide that what was immoral yesterday is moral today, because after all, we just kind of define these things ourselves. Yeah. And so in that world, if morality shifts all the time, well, then of course so does justice. What was just yesterday is unjust today, because there's no objective truth to these things. They're just kind of made up on the fly, or we decide what they are depending on what we feel like. Mm-hmm. So if we have no objective measure of what is right, as in no objective morality, there's no objective measure of what is just. If you can't tell what's good or bad, those things change on a daily basis, then what is just, what is deserved to a person by a person, that is a totally undefined concept too. And so that, to me, the way that morality changes on a dime with these people is the reason why justice itself is such an elusive concept, because one is a consequence of the other or necessarily tied to the other. Do you have thoughts on any of that, Joshy?
None that I can think of right off the top of my head. I couldn't see the rest of the notes.
Oh, yeah, sorry. You're right. There's a little bit more. It's just the quote from, it's a scriptural quote.
It is a terror to evildoers. The problem is that we don't really do that.
We don't instill terror in evildoers.
No,
is that what we're saying?
Look at all the.
No,
look at all
we're
the
pretty
shit
light
that
on them, I would say.
Yeah, we are pretty light. I promise you. If a few, I know this is gonna sound violent, and I'm not trying to sound black-pilled. If a few heads rolled, right, we can get this country back on track. That's why take Antifa.
Bingo.
They're called the theater kids because everything is performance to them, and it's like the world is their stage, right? If they got their asses kicked just a little bit while growing up, I promise you they wouldn't be doing this shit.
Bingo.
All right, fair enough.
Just a wee bit.
Compassion is good. How do you feel about programs like Meals on Wheels? Would it change if the federal government could mandate a cap on wages for executives or workers in charge of running it? Church groups can deliver services efficiently. It seems NGOs siphon too much money for paychecks and perks. Instead of funding Medicaid to pack seniors into horrid, expensive, overcrowded nursing homes on the taxpayer dime, isn't it better to spend less money and help seniors have dignity, happiness, and the ability to remain in their homes and communities for as long as possible? Now, I don't know much about Meals on Wheels in particular, other than it's a nonprofit. They get a lot of government grant money. Mm-hmm. I know they deliver meals to people, of course. I get that. But as far as the specifics of how they operate, I don't know a ton about that.
Well, go ahead and finish the thought.
Well, I see two questions here, but if you have a thought about Meals on Wheels, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's an older gentleman that I help out. I'm sort of his caretaker since I live close by him. He's on Meals on Wheels. What they do is that somebody sets it up. They have a schedule upon which they give him meals. It's like these little microwavable dinners. Unfortunately, he's from Kenya, so a lot of the stuff that they give him, like pork and stuff, he doesn't eat, and he doesn't like eating it. So I think I actually agree with the statement. The church should be in charge of that because they have a better sense of their community rather than just some nonprofit. I kind of hate nonprofits at this point because they don't really do a lot of good.
I think the reason you might hate them is because of government shoveling money to them, not necessarily the idea of nonprofits. So
no, most of them are a giant waste of time because I've actually worked for a couple.
Yeah, a lot of them are propped up with government money, which sort of defeats the purpose of voluntary charity. That is to say, their revenue is not obtained voluntarily, so they don't actually have accountability. Nonprofits should have accountability just like any other business organization. But I really see two questions here, which is, should the government regulate how charities, nonprofits, how they operate financially? And then does government help or hurt healthcare later in life is kind of the two things he got at. So on the first, the government actually is already involved in regulating charities, nonprofits, for transparency. Now, in exchange for tax exemption, charities disclose their finances to the public that way, and that includes pay of executives, at least. Maybe not every employee, but pay of high-level officers. And that way the public can evaluate whether they think the money is being used well, wisely, in pursuit of the charity's mission, or if it's being wasted on nonsense that is not actually pursuant to the charity's purpose. And I would not be in favor of the government capping wages for nonprofits, whether it's for workers, whether it's for executives, for the same reasons I would oppose the government setting minimum wage, though we do that. But the market should set these wages. If I tell a nonprofit that they can't pay their executives certain money, they will lose those candidates for executive leadership to other businesses that can. You're not going to get better nonprofit leadership that way. You're going to get worse because they're going to lose the best candidates to places that will pay them more. Likewise, if I tell a nonprofit, you can't hire workers and pay them that much money, good workers are going to go elsewhere where they will earn more money. That means the nonprofit will suffer. Doesn't mean the nonprofit will improve. So what's the mechanism for accountability? Well, don't shovel government money to them, which happens for a lot of, my understanding is Meals on Wheels does receive a lot of government grants. So that's not to say that nonprofits shouldn't be accountable. They should. These things are disclosed for a reason. What they pay their executives disclosed for a reason. What they spend on budget items X, Y, and Z, so that you as the individual donor to that charity, you can evaluate that and say, well, yeah, I mean, okay, they're paying CEO guy X, and that seems kind of high, but look at all the good they're doing under his leadership. Maybe he's actually earned good pay because he's doing a fantastic job, and the work that he's doing is allowing that nonprofit to earn more money, to do more good, to pursue their purpose better. The accountability is the market that way. Conversely, if you donate to a charity like Meals on Wheels, and again, I'm not saying they're good or bad, but if I donate $500 to them and I can see that it only paid for like 2 hamburgers and the staff got a bunch of bonuses, I'm not going to give them money anymore, and people shouldn't. And the market will hold them accountable in that way. So in general, I think nonprofits actually do a much better job of actually helping people than the government does. And I would include churches in that. They function in much the same way. I don't know if they're legally the same thing as a 501c3. I think they're different, right? But
I think they are different.
But they function in much the same way. That is to say, they're accountable to their membership, and they earn money from their membership, and membership supports them based on the good work that they do in pursuit of their religious mission. That's how a church works. So market accountability works for these organizations the same in the way that it doesn't work for government organizations. I trust charities in these communities to do better work than the government would do. They're closer to these communities. They're accountable to these communities, and they have a specialized knowledge about how to operate in their arena that government bureaucrats generally don't. Now, as far as government supposedly helping people with care later in life, question about Medicare and end-of-life care, long-term care, living in a nursing home, that kind of stuff. That is also something that I would prefer to have left to nonprofits. Oh, but who's going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for such a thing? Well, if we weren't all taxed so much by the federal government, there's a lot more money to give to charity. If I had a choice to give every dollar I give to the IRS, if I could take that and give it to charities in Bozeman where I live, of course I would do that. I would much prefer to do that. Why? Because they're actually helping people in my town. And again, there's an element of transparency where I can see what they're doing and evaluate if I think they're worth my dollar or not. I've talked about this before. I would prefer in lieu of an income tax and in lieu of the IRS, that the government tells me, Matt, you must donate X% of your income every year to a charity or charities of your choice. I don't like being compelled to someone telling me what I must do with my dollar, but at least I have a choice in that arrangement. I don't just have to shovel it to the IRS to go to government workers and their inflated union contracts. I have an element of choice in that arena, and it stays in my local community if I wanted to. How would that work with healthcare and home care? Well, it managed locally, like anything, it is always going to be better than DC bureaucratic management. And again, just no more federal income tax, reduce the federal tax burden generally. And if you instead support local healthcare charities and charities, not just Beyond the Care, but charities that help keep families intact, because guess what? You're right that not all care requires some sort of institutionalization where you have to live in a facility. If families are held together, families take care of each other. Charities can serve that purpose too. So for whatever waste you may think is in charities, and I assure you there is plenty. I'm not saying there are none. They're all A+. No, there's waste there too. The waste is far greater in government. And the difference is the government takes your money with a gun and the charity actually has to earn it. You voluntarily support them or not, ultimately. So those are my thoughts on how all this ought to be managed. But have I changed your mind a little bit about charities, or do you still dislike them, Joshy Boy?
I still only because I've worked for at least two. I still kind of dislike them, but I do prefer them over government. Like you said before, most charities, even most churches, they know their communities inside and out, especially if you participate in it. They do a better job at managing it. They kind of know what people need rather than just like, oh, here's a frozen meal that I'll give you on X amount of days. Case in point, I used a personal example because he just likes to pile up. He doesn't eat that stuff. He would rather me. I mean, sometimes I take him to the
Does he
store
just
so
continue to receive them and throw them away, or did he say anything? Like, I don't need these anymore.
The problem is that if you don't spend enough time around him, you can't understand his accent. So I don't.
Does he know how to
understand.
say ask?
How do you do it?
I doubt it.
The thing is, he's not confrontational. So
I'll tell you how you do the accent.
Why are you gay?
That's the one.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So.
Okay. Did you have more? Otherwise, I want to get into
No.
your thoughts on natural rights.
Oh,
but
okay.
I'll quickly remind everybody, thanks to our callers tonight, voicemail caller, live callers, and our email question submitters. If you'd like to submit a question for consideration on the show or send a voicemail for the show, contact page on my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/contact. Both of those links are right there for you. All right, man. So let me just set the context for people one more time. So you and I have spoken about the concept of natural rights, God-given rights many times before, and you have expressed varying descriptions or the variations of the idea that you don't think that natural rights or God-given rights are a thing. Is that fair to say, or have I misrepresented it?
Sort of. I don't believe they come from God. You know what I mean?
So they exist. Well, now I have questions already. They're natural, but they don't come from God?
I wouldn't even argue that theories are natural, right?
Okay, so they're... All right, well, why don't I just give you the floor, because you have thought about this and you wanted to clarify.
I'll do my best to clarify as much as possible. Whether or not I do a good job is up for the audience, right? But basically, when it comes... Well, since we're basing this on natural rights, the first thing I kind of want to do is that rights in general... There's been this notion that people believe that rights come from God and we have God-given rights and everything, and they don't come from the state. And that's a statement that I actually disagree with, right? Rights, from one of my favorite commentators, Andrew Wilson, made this argument a lot, and I'll have to link you to that. But he basically characterizes it as rights are entitlements without duty. So, for example, you do have a right to vote, but you don't have to. You have a right to bear arms, but you don't really have to. You have a right to remain silent, but you don't have to, right? So it's really not a duty to those things. So, for example, if I were to take the Constitution, burn it, and then our generation who knows our rights dies, and then the next generation grows up and doesn't know those rights, do they still exist? Does that make sense?
Yes. If you hear me typing, and I apologize to the audience, I want Joshy to go uninterrupted, but this is a deep topic, so I might take some notes just so I remember some points to come back to.
So, they don't exist.
I'm going to mute my mic so people don't have to hear my stupid typing. Right?
Okay. So they typically when it comes to rights, they typically don't exist anywhere outside except your mind, right? And it's mostly a social agreement amongst people. So, for example, take our founding fathers, for example. They formed a body of government. These are the rights that we would like our citizens to have. These are the rights that we made up that our citizens can have. And I know the whole inalienable rights sounds good, but if we're talking about us being founded as a Christian nation, I would like to see biblical backing on it, and I don't see that, especially from the ones that I read. But when you say natural rights, I kind of wanted to go into that. I wanted to cover the basis of it. From what I've read and from what I've researched briefly, natural rights or inalienable rights typically boil down to four things. They say for property, pursuit of happiness, life, and liberty, right? And not in a specific order. I will admit that liberty is a bit harder for me to ponder over. So I probably won't have too much to say about it. I have to think about it some more. The other thing, one is the right to property, right? And some people might even argue that the right to property is a God-given right, but it's not. If any of you are familiar with the Old Testament, you will know about Cain, right? Who is the brother of Abel, who Cain murdered. Cain had a son named Enoch, and then when he built the first city, he named it after his son. So this was before the Great Flood, when evil kind of permeated day-to-day life, and it seems like one of these evil schemes and plots was the idea of private property. So let's say that you have private property, but way back when in the ancient days, and you step on somebody's property that you didn't know about, and they just kill you, right? That is kind of like the formation of taxation. I don't think the idea of private property came from God. That came from us, right? This is my land. I claim it. I will kill you over it if you try to say otherwise, right? So that's where the extent of my idea of the God-given right to property is kind of false, because we kind of made that up. And I think the reason why the founding fathers put that into our Constitution is because they were kind of landowners themselves. So why wouldn't you want to protect your assets? And this is also for future generations who will end up owning land at that point. The right to life, right? The right to life is a bit of a heavier topic, because I believe that instead of the right to life, there's a value to life. This is kind of what I wanted to allude to earlier by that guy. I can't remember who the caller was, but yeah, like the example with your wife or your kids, right? I wouldn't argue that this is a right to live or whatever. This is whose life is more valuable, right? So the example I'll give, let's say you have a burning building. You have a 5-year-old, and a 10-year-old. You can only save one. Naturally, the person, you will save the 5-year-old, because you will find that his life is more valuable than the one of the 10-year-old. Now, they're both valuable in the eyes of man and in the eyes of God, but only one has more value to us than the other. Does that make sense? So the reason why when people say, oh, we have a right to live, I have a right to exist as a person, to me that kind of seems arrogant and a little bit of an entitlement. That's like saying, God, I have a right to live and exist, and
that's what rights are. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but
I said I wasn't going to interrupt, and
you're totally fine. Right. But it's like, you don't have the authority to take my life away because I have a right to exist and I have a right to live. And to me, that reads arrogance. That's not there's nothing humble about that, because God can destroy both body and soul if he wants to. And there's plenty of cases. Now, I draw mostly from the Old Testament, and I know we don't really follow the laws of the Old Testament since we follow New Testament. But real quick, have y'all in your Bible study read anything from the Old Testament?
We've read a little bit of Genesis as a path into Acts. So that would be it.
All right. So some of the examples I give, one of them is 2 Samuel chapter 12, if I remember correctly. Ooh, I've got a lot on here. Actually, there is one story that I want to highlight, and I believe this is in first. No, this is in second.
I forgot to set up a 10-minute timer for you. I'm going to be strict.
No, well, just keep track of when I started, and then
I don't remember. Just keep going. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm wasting time.
No, I'll make it real brief. So in 2 Samuel, and somebody can correct me when I'm wrong, this talks about King David, and this is a story about him and Bathsheba. He saw Bathsheba taking a bath one day and thought she was beautiful and decided to take her on as his own wife. The only problem is that she was married to Uriah the Hittite. So in order to cover this up, David sends Uriah off to war, gets him killed. And this obviously pisses off God, right? Or I call him Yahweh a lot. So Yahweh decides to send one of his guys to tell David, you fucked up, right? And as punishment, I'm going to sow turmoil into your family. And one of that punishment was the death of the newborn between David and Bathsheba. To me, this does not read right to live, right? Because everybody will argue, well, that baby has a right to live. They have a right to exist. So God says, well, I'm using his death as a punishment to David. I'm not going to kill him, but I am going to make him suffer, right? Another one is, I don't know if you have the book of Esther, if you've ever read that one.
No, I have not.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to, and I'm skimming as fast as possible, so I kind of have to gloss over a lot of this stuff, right? So if I seem to be wishy-washy on it, I'm trying to hurry. That's my thing. But actually, here's my notes, and I actually have a better idea. So there's King David. There's also Uzzah. So Uzzah is one of the guys who tried to save the ark from falling when the oxen stumbled, and God kills him dead, right? So because he got angry, let's see what else is there. That's basically my whole premise of this whole right to live is kind of, I wouldn't even say it's bullshit. I will say this is kind of arrogant. You don't really have, like, your life is valuable, and this is heavily prevalent in the New Testament, but you don't have a right to live. And I know that sounds mean, but I actually do wholeheartedly believe that. So go ahead.
Are you? Well, I'll save my thoughts until you're finished because I have some points noted.
Gotcha.
But if you are, I think that final point there from you is worth examining a little bit.
Okay. Last one, and I'll make this one real quick. And since we're kind of crunched on time, it's pursuit of happiness, right? Actually, you know what? Why don't I just leave it there, and you can just go ahead and tell me your thoughts on it.
And actually, you could argue you kind of covered that because the original language in the Declaration was pursuit of property. Happiness is kind of a later characterization. Yeah. But okay, I'm going to return to this right to life. Well, let me start there.
Okay.
Because I actually, even though it sounds crazy to say you don't have a right to life in the context of believing in God, which of course you do, I think I understand what you mean, which is to say that God himself justifiably takes life all the time. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. So that's very different than man taking man's life, because God is what gives your life value and establishes that right.
Yeah.
So by definition, when a human being dies, that is not, and God has played a part in that insofar as he's designed the world this way, that is not a violation of the right to life in the same way that a person murdering someone is a violation of the right to life. Right?
I don't even agree with the right to life, right?
You don't think that if a person murders someone, there's any kind of violation?
There's a
nothing wrong with
violation.
that?
It's just I don't really follow the rule, like the right to live. I still think that's...
Well, why is it wrong to murder?
It's wrong to murder because it's kind of like a devaluation of life, right? I equate that not for a right, but for a value. Does that make
What's
sense?
the difference? The right is based on the value. That is to say, the right is because life has value, it would be wrong for you to take it from another person. But what gives it the value? Just other people?
No, I would equate that to God himself, right? I mean, right. I guess you could say other people as well, but
would you say it's a God-given natural right?
No.
What the? What? What are you talking about? Okay, all right.
But the reason why I say no is because that we believe that, right? But take Muslims, for example. They believe that whoever is not a Muslim just doesn't have the right to live.
I don't know if that's true, but if they believe that, they're wrong. Isn't it possible that they're just wrong? That the moral relativism?
But
I don't care about to them. Someone will tell me 2 + 2 is 5. Doesn't mean they're right. Yeah. I wouldn't say, well, to them it's right. No, it's wrong. It's just flat wrong.
Yeah, but we're operating on a moral framework of Christianity. They're operating on the moral framework of Islam. Does that make sense?
Do you agree those things are of equal validity? And I'm not saying this to indict Islam per se. I'm just saying, isn't there a real truth? Isn't there one truth?
It is. Islam is kind of a derivation from Christianity, so I guess
they're related.
Yeah, they're related. So I guess there is some truth to it, but
I guess what I'm saying is merely because we can say not all people believe this means that all beliefs are equally valid. There is a such thing as the truth, and some beliefs are more connected to it than others. And the truth pre-exists all of those belief systems.
Yeah.
So let me I only made a few points, and I'm just curious how you respond to these, and we'll make this relatively quick because we got to get to super chat, and they've been very patient. And,
Yes.
Okay. So you said the Constitution doesn't establish, or you said if the Constitution burns, would we still have rights? Is that a fair way of?
Yes. Would they still exist?
Would you? And your answer would be no.
So let's say we know the Constitution, right? And I say that, and we know it in our heads. But if our generation dies and the next generation comes up and they don't know it at all, do they still exist? That's my question.
Yes. It's just a question of whether that generation recognizes that moral truth or not.
I don't think it does.
So if the next generation is born and decides it's totally fine to murder people, does that mean it's totally fine to murder people? Or is there some pre-existing truth that says that's wrong, whether they believe it or not?
I wouldn't equate that to rights necessarily, right?
All right. I don't understand how how do you say murder is wrong without a right to life that makes it wrong?
To me, I phrase it as value, right? It's
okay. But
like I said before, to me, if you say I have a right to live, that to me, that's arrogant, right?
See, I don't think it's arrogant, and I think it's the ultimate humility. That is to say, my right to live is given from God himself. The reason I won't kill other people in cold blood is because God himself has established their right to live. To me, it's respect. It's humility before God. It is not arrogant. Arrogant would be, I'll kill that son of a bitch whenever I want. Who cares? His life doesn't matter. That's arrogance. That is saying that you are of higher value than anybody else around you merely because you can extinguish them by force. Recognizing moral truth delivered by God is humility.
I'm not quite there yet.
All right. I'll bring you around. Okay. My answer on the Constitution, yeah, you can burn it tomorrow. It's a piece of paper that recognizes truth. The truth remains whether you burn the piece of paper or not. If the next generation doesn't understand that moral truth, the moral truth still exists. They're just living in defiance of it. You said something to the effect of rights exist only in the mind. Is that a fair way to?
Yeah. So take your right to bear arms, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't exist anywhere else, does it?
It's not recognized, but it does exist.
Where at?
In other countries that don't allow firearm possession for self-defense, is that the right exists. The governments just deny the right.
Okay, let's say that humanity just doesn't exist. Does that right still exist? I know that doesn't make sense.
Well, these are rights inherent to human life. Yeah. So if you remove human life from it, no, because the value component of this has been erased. All of these are consequences of the inherent value of human life given by God.
Mm-hmm.
So if you erase human life, then yeah, the rights are moot points because they're necessarily attached to it.
Now, some people will argue that, I have a right to defend myself. I would say that's more instinctual, right? If somebody attacks you, instinctively, you're going to defend yourself. That's just...
Yeah, I would say why? Why don't you just say, who cares? My life doesn't matter. Kill me. I don't give a shit.
Well, you got some people who are like that, but...
Maybe, but they are denying what? The value of human life and the rights afforded to it accordingly. Now, I have to disagree with for all the reasons we've described. Unalienable rights are much more than just marketing or branding or the idea that they sound good. They're recognition of moral truth. They're recognition that God has given value to human life that carries with it a host of rights other people shouldn't interfere with. That's where those come from. When they say we hold these truths to be self-evident, that's what it is recognizing, that human life was put here for a reason, to pursue certain ends, and for us as people to interfere unfairly with that human life would violate the moral truth of the world. Hence, they are unalienable. Now, take your point on, practically speaking, like, can government alienate you from your rights? Yeah, they do it all the time. They put people in prison wrongly. They deny you your free speech rights, your self-defense rights, however you want. But that's the point. They're unalienable because nobody can take them from you justifiably. Even though governments take them from you, they're doing it unjustifiably.
So if I murder somebody with a gun, right, and they take away my right to bear arms, that wouldn't be justifiable to you?
Yeah, because you have committed a crime for which there must be justice. So your question is, if you have shown yourself to be a murderer, do you still retain a right to arm yourself?
Yeah, by the government standard.
No, because you violated the rights of somebody else, and therefore you have punishment that's due to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can make an argument like murder generally is not a crime that you rehabilitate from, like you've paid your debt to society. Generally, like the old school way of dealing with murders was you took a life, so your life is over.
Yeah, that's even
or
that's
maybe it's de facto over because you're in prison. But
yeah.
Now, I also I'll take your point on scripture. You made a lot of scriptural references. I'm not saying those are incorrect, and I'm not a great scriptural citation mind.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's a lot of biblical principle behind this. That is to say, a fundamental biblical principle of human life being made in the image of God.
Mm-hmm.
That is what gives human life value, is that we are made in the image of God. God gave us that value. We ought to recognize that value, and recognizing the rights that are afforded to that life is a consequence of that. So to me, that's the biblical basis.
Yeah, it's just that when you say you have a right to live, to me, that's kind of, I know you think that's the ultimate form of respect. To me, that's kind of the ultimate form of arrogance, though.
No, I think that what we're hung up on is who gave it to you. Do you have that right just because you say so, or do you have that because God did? And I believe God did. That's the difference. It's not me declaring something. It's recognizing God's intent.
I still that's still gonna get hung up on me because I only see that as value, not a right.
I guess I'd have to ask you to explain to me the difference between value and rights. And I know that what would be a synonym for value here? Like value is the worth that we place on something.
Mm-hmm.
Because we place worth on it, we ought not to interfere with it because of that value or worth. Those are the concepts of rights. To me, rights are a consequence of value, but the question remains, what gave the value? Does life only have value that human beings assign to it? And if we decide tomorrow that there's no value and we start murdering everyone, does that change is that just as morally valid as staying committed to the idea that life has God-given value? What is the source of life's value in this framework that you're describing? Is it humans or is it God?
Yeah, it comes strictly from God.
See,
I would say that it does come from God because God created life, right?
Yeah,
He has inherent value to that.
Right. Okay. I agree in full. And so if there's value to that life, it means you shouldn't do bad things to that life because of the value afforded to it by God, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do we call the not doing the bad things to it? Well, what's a way I could phrase this? What I'm getting at is that's the idea of rights. You shouldn't kill people because there is a right to life. And the right to life is based on the value of that life. Like, these are all interconnected things, and I don't understand saying these are values, not rights. Well, rights are a consequence of value.
No, I would say they're just an entitlement.
Oh, explain to me how entitlement differs from right and how it is not similarly attached to the concept of value.
Ask that question again.
Okay, whether you call it an entitlement, let's say an entitlement to free speech, an entitlement to life, whatever right you want to pick, or a right to, I treat those as synonyms in this context. Both are a consequence of the value of the life, right? And if God gave value to the life, and the value creates rights, then God established the value and the rights. Right? Like, how does God establish value but not rights?
I'm going to have to think more on that.
All right. All right. The last point I wanted to bring up was about property. And this is I liked that you framed it up in terms of like the founding philosophy of life, liberty, property. We really focused in on life there. But property is another one. The right to property is fundamentally based on the theory of labor here, the ownership of labor. That is to say, you have a right to your property because your property is the fruit of your labor and you own your labor. That's where that comes from. I don't think it's a made up concept, or let me ask you, how do you think property is established? I accept the labor theory of property. That is to say, property is something that you work on. It's the mixture. Property is the mixture of your labor plus a resource. What makes this land my property? The fact that I work on it. The fact that I showed up here, it was wild, there was nothing here, I worked on it, I made it into a farm. Or I used the fruits of my labor otherwise. Maybe I've been a lawyer for a bunch of years, but I'd like a simpler life, and I have some money, and I give it to a farmer to purchase his farm. And now, because I've used the fruits of my labor to acquire the fruits of his, this is now my property, and I work the farm. What I'm saying is, your labor mixed with a natural resource equals property. And that's where the concept of the right to property comes from. It's an extension of the right to the ownership of your own labor. In your mind, how is property established? What is the definition of it? Ownership. Or is it even not even a thing? Is it just made up?
Well, property would declare ownership, right? We've made people property. We've made things we have, like this laptop that I have, that's my property, right? To me, property reads, I own this, right? Whether I worked for it or whether I inherited it, I own it, it's mine. That's as far as that goes.
But what defines property? How do we tell what is your property versus mine? That is to say, if there's a dispute about the laptop, I say it's mine, you say it's yours. What would be the feature that we would look for that would help us decide whose it is?
If you can get into it, like if you know the password or the PIN.
Well, okay. I mean, there's like a really technical sense that way. But I guess what I mean is one of us applied our labor to acquire that laptop.
Yeah.
And that's where ownership comes from. That's where property comes from. The reason that you can't own people is because every individual human has the right to that labor, has the ownership of his or her own labor in that way. So if I just... This is maybe a little insensitive contextually, but if I say, that's enough, ask mispronunciations, and I'm scooping you up and I'm bringing you to work my farm that I just purchased after years of podcasting, because that's what property is, that would be morally wrong because it denies you the ownership to the right to your labor, and that's where property comes from. So when you say... Or when we talk about this as a made up thing, I don't think it is. I think that the ownership of your labor is a real thing that creates the concept of property. Disagree? Okay. Agree?
I can more or less agree. Yes.
All right. I'll get you eventually. Thank you for your contribution.
Great story, compelling and rich.
Tell another time, and of course, I don't know how to put your middle finger emojis in the chat for whoever you hate.
I know, I mean, obviously, I don't think I did a good job at defending my points, but like I said before, I'm still thinking on this stuff. I'm still kind of writing it out, but due to time constraints, I wasn't able to actually fully flesh it out. But yeah.
Already making excuses. No, I appreciate it.
No, but I also I do like to push back. So
yeah, again, I find these concepts to be, it's like the marriage one, okay? I think these are, in my opinion, pretty straightforward, but it is crucial to get these right. Because if we get these wrong and we build society on those incorrect premises, you have massive consequences. So, yeah, I mean, these things should be challenged. I believe they are sturdy against challenge, but I'm interested in whatever counter case may be presented to me.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into Super Chat. We'll call it a night. You guys have been very patient. Appreciate you.
Yes,
Starch Manning, not Arch, but Starch Manning. Stephen Miller is Pee-wee German. I hadn't heard that, but do you think Stephen Miller looks like Pee-wee Herman? Yes, no.
I never liked Pee-wee Herman.
Well, do you think Stephen Miller looks like him though? Should I get a picture?
Not even close. Let me see him.
I don't know if
I remember what Pee-wee Herman looks like. I don't think he looks anything. Isn't he bald or something?
He is, man. He's a bald king. You know, we're very proud people. Let's see. That's not a great picture of him. Let me find a good picture. I don't think Pee-wee when I see him. That's for sure. Pee-wee has hair. Pee-wee.
Yeah,
maybe wears a similar suit. Let me. That's him.
Okay. No, he doesn't look anything like him.
Yeah, I don't get the Pee Wee German bit, but I mean, I guess it would be reasonably clever. I guess they're saying he's Nazi-ish. That's the idea.
I guess, but that dude doesn't look. I mean, he's not nearly as pale. He doesn't have red lips, and he doesn't look like he trips on acid. I hated that show.
Didn't that guy just... I was not a huge... Well, that movie actually, if I remember my review, it started off horrible, and then it got kind of good. Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Wasn't it also a TV show, or am I just missing?
Yeah, it was, but the movie is the last thing I've watched. Starch Manning also says, release the files. Well, I don't think we're going to get that.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Injured Guardian.
Yes.
Folks' habit of using intimacy solely as a euphemism for sex hurts their ability to discuss actual intimacy. This is a logic problem, not grammar. I assume this is about the sign tapping discussion.
Yeah. That'll make me tap the sign.
Yeah, I forget exactly how the word intimacy came up in tonight's discussion, so I might have to punt on that one just because I can't recall. But yes, as I've said in all of the sign tapping discussions, are you supposed to enjoy your spouse? Yes. Are you supposed to enjoy all the physical closeness that comes with the primary purpose of the relationship, which is the production of children? Yes. Yeah. Those.
Yeah. Y'all would say be fruitful and multiply, right? That's the primary thing.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Injured Guardian. Appreciate it. John West says, if you have to say I'm a leader, you're not a leader. That
really
sounds
aren't.
Bingo.
Yeah, leaders don't declare that they're leaders. They just lead by example. They show.
Look at me leading right now. Mm-hmm. Katie Porter.
Yeah, you led yourself right off that interview. There you go.
Oh boy.
And you'll lead the stage right off a cliff.
You know, for whatever doubts you may have after that segment, at least you didn't throw mashed potatoes at my face.
Exactly.
So, you know, all things considered, not bad.
I don't know why I keep getting uncentered. There we go.
Ramsey over on Rumble, Ramsey C, finally got my black card from my father-in-law, and I can't type the N-word in a rant. Damn Rumble. Do they censor the N-word in Rumble chats?
Oh, YouTube definitely.
Definitely YouTube, but this is over on Rumble.
The N-word. You know what the N-word is?
Apparently, Rumble doesn't let you learn. That's news to me. I know Odyssey doesn't censor chats if you have an N itch, and it sounds like you have your card, so you could exercise it over there if you want. Ramsey also says, the biggest reveal on Porter is her attempt to normalize pedo behavior. Look that up. I haven't seen what she's said, but that does not sound shocking, whatever this might be. Dangerous Space's friendly call screener producer, I want to have a pleasant conversation with you. Well, fucking hell, do you understand? This was an interview, especially for a politician. It's not supposed to be pleasant and happy. Yeah. Holy fuck, she made Kamala look competent. Well, she didn't word salad too hard. She just went like weird rage mode.
Why did I forget who Kamala was for a second?
What?
I was like,
you have mashed potato brain for sure. You forgot who she was?
I had to think for a second. I was like, who's Kamala? Oh, it's that lady. Oh, I was like, okay.
Oh my God.
Dude, I'm just not having a good night. I need to smoke.
It's that time in the show. But let me ask you this. You think who has a better interview performance, Kamala Harris or Katie Porter?
Katie by far. I can't understand a word that bitch says.
All right. Do you think she can pronounce it?
Ask?
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard her. We'll have to look it up. Someone's got to have the answer out there. Dangerous Spaces. Also, I'm happy with the questions as written. She asked you 2 or 3 of them. Yeah, and 2 or 3 times.
Yes.
And the follow-up questions are standard. They're clarifying the answers of the written questions. Yeah. Oh, I'm fine. You're right. The lady read the question off the script. And then Katie got all flustered and then said, oh, I'm fine. Just read them to me. She didn't editorialize at all.
Oh, my goodness.
Also says AOC and her fiance, Riley Roberts, have been engaged since 2022, but their relationship began over a decade before that. Plus, he's a ginger. And,
I will say this.
He's a ginger, so spiritually, he's lacking a soul. Yeah, that sounds about right. But something's going on. Yeah, you can't, dude.
You can't be engaged for 3 years and just not marry. That
I know women don't listen to my show, so it doesn't matter. There might be a few of you. But if you're dating a guy who has not proposed to you after years, or if you have been in an engagement for years for reasons other than you are planning some sort of insane wedding that he is kind of going along. If because of your guy, your marriage has been due for like the better part of a dozen years or something, start asking questions and demanding accountability. Normally I am not pro-feminist in any way, and I don't even know if this is a feminist argument. It's just a pro-marriage argument.
No,
but if you're following a guy for that long who's been baiting you with marriage and he never makes the commitment, that guy is a giant red flag. That's what his ginger hair is all about. It's a red flag.
I think it's her, not the ginger. But the ginger has been a massive push since we've seen him on screen.
Ramsey C. Andrew Wilson is a shithead retard that happens to be generally on the base side. Don't trust what he says just because you agree with some things he says. I haven't seen much of him, so I know people like him a lot. I know he does a lot of the debate stuff, and from what I've seen, tends to do pretty well in it.
Yeah,
so
I've watched a lot of his stuff. That's kind of where the premise of my argument comes from.
Thank you, Ramsey. Dangerous Spaces. Rights are something that a person is owed or entitled to merely for existing, right? If you think the government can tell you what rights can be given or taken away, by definition, how are those rights? Yeah, they're not inherent to your existence. They are defined by government, given to you by government, taken away by government. What do you smoke in that pipe, by the way?
Captain Black.
Is that just tobacco, or what are we talking?
It's tobacco.
Oh. Do you pick that yourself?
No.
Sorry. Do you even pick tobacco? Is that a thing?
Yeah, you grow tobacco, you crush it, you grow it, you harvest it, you dry it, and then you crush it up.
Oh, see, you do have knowledge about that. I wasn't way off.
Dude, I want to be a farmer, so.
That's right. I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And apologies to Skulldugger because he sandbagged me last time that I was smoking with a lighter instead of a match. I tried looking for lighters at my local Walmart. They didn't have any. Goddamn.
Also says, I swear Democrats and people like Jack Smith think there was some big conspiracy happening on January 6th. It was a protest that turned into at most a riot. It was not some plot, you stupid lefty nut bars. Oh, I think there were plots. I just don't think it was by who was blamed. You can't convince me that the pipe bomber was not some bizarre plot by somebody other than who is supposed to take the blame for January 6th. There were plots on January 6th for sure. And I actually don't think Dangerous Spaces would disagree with that, but yeah. All right. We are good on Odyssey. Let's see. Good on Rumble, good on YouTube, and Tippy. I think we're all set. Anything else you want to say before we're out of here?
I'm sure our conversation on rights will continue at some point, but
all right. Well, until next time, we'll get back to it then. All right, thanks to everybody for tuning in tonight. Appreciate the live chatters and super chatters for making the live show a success. If you're listening on demand later, thank you kindly as well for supporting the show. Thanks to our callers, emailers. Thanks to Joshy Boy for sitting in tonight. Thanks to producer Tim for... Hold on. A chat just came in. I have to back out.
You pop some music.
Cancel the song. I have to recognize the chat. It takes a second to load in. But yeah, I can cancel the song anytime. I decide what value and rights the song has. Don't you understand? I am the god of the soundboard.
You sounded like that villain from Wish just now. I decide. I can't remember.
I don't even know that movie. It's a movie. I've never seen it. The hell's that?
It's a Disney movie. It was a Disney's 100 years of whatever. It was a terrible movie.
Injured Guardian asks, have you seen Landman yet? You've probably asked me about this in the past, right? And I've said no. And the answer is still no. But this is what? It's a Taylor Sheridan one. Yeah, this rings a bell. Taylor Sheridan, something about, and Billy Bob Thornton is in it. He's a landman for an oil company. It premiered November last year. Since there's no current Taylor Sheridan, we don't have any Yellowstone shows, Yellowstone University or universe stuff going on right now. Maybe I'll give it a chance. But yeah, thank you for the rec. And there's with the kids and all the stuff going on, there's not a lot of like get into a full series of shows type stuff. I know I talk about watching trash TV with my wife, but that's kind of the appeal, is watching absolute garbage. With quality TV, I have to pay attention and appreciate all the details of it. With trash, I can just laugh absentmindedly. So anyway, there was one more now. Let me get into that.
Oh, real quickly.
Yeah.
I know Batman chastised you for your Netflix thing, but there is a show called... Now, I'm a medieval guy. There's a show called
Do you have a Netflix subscription?
Well, no, because I didn't want to pay for it anymore.
Oh, so you do the right thing of stealing the content like Batman says?
Well, my mother has hers, so I just use hers from time to time.
I thought they cracked down on that. Like you can't do it across households.
You can do like a family thing where you can set up other people.
Okay, yeah, actually, yeah, all right.
But it's kind of like Korea in the medieval times, but they fight zombies and stuff. I think it's cool.
What's the show?
Kingdom.
Okay.
Yeah, Kingdom.
Purpose of the age is Joshy thinks like a woman. Oh, rights are rights because they're rights. He also has the recollection of a Democrat. Kamala, who's that? Is Joshy a black trans woman? What the fuck is going on here? Well, geez, man, just roasting.
That's fine. Nah, but I'm not going to even tell you that story.
What?
I told Raggle. Me and Raggle actually met up in person.
I heard that. I wasn't gonna. I didn't know if I am at liberty to disclose that or not, but I did see the picture. That's very cool.
Yeah, and I told him. I'll be real quick. I told him a story, and I think I went over it briefly, but I actually did end up getting hit on by a dude. He knew I was a dude. I told him I don't swing that way. And he was very, very persistent. So.
Were you not persistent with your denial? Was this Don Lemon? Did you see him on the street?
No, this was not Don Lemon.
Well, congratulations on your appeal, I guess. Anyway.
Apparently, I just learned that there were actually male prostitutes where I'm at, and I didn't know that. So I guess he thought I was one.
That's why he was persistent. He thought you were a male prostitute and or a trans one who might give him fraudulent services.
He knew I was a straight up dude. Dude was like legit gay. And
why did he think you were a gay prostitute?
I don't know. A lot of people question my sexuality because I'm soft spoken, right? Okay. Some thought I was gay. Some thought I was bisexual. I don't know. I just kind of lean into it now.
You lean into being mistaken for a gay prostitute?
Not a gay prostitute, just a gay person.
You lean into being mistaken for gay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me say that. For the right price.
Great story. Compelling and rich.
Thank you for your contribution. All right. We will leave it there. I won't fake out this time. Thank you, one and all, for your participation, your contribution to the show tonight. Whether you listened live, listen later on demand, appreciate you. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for leaving emails. Thanks for super chatting. Thanks to Joshy for sitting in tonight. Thanks to producer Tim for keeping the show running. As always, if you need anything show related, mattchristiansenmedia.com. I'll be back on Sunday. Hope to see you then. Have a great night.
Good night, everyone.